of March 21st and 22nd of the Colorado Water Conservation Board. So it's another beautiful day in Broomfield, Colorado, and we're all excited to be here. We have a good agenda. We're going to hear from a lot of different people today and a lot of phones in the background. So, so welcome all of you here, and I hope you enjoy your time here. And once again, thank you to the Colorado Department of Agriculture for hosting us. So we'll start with agenda item 24, the Basin Director's Report, and we start with our Colorado Main Stem Director, George.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Always like to start out by thanking our host. We've been here enough in the last couple of years. It's really feeling like home, and certainly everyone that works here treats us like we're part of the family, and so it's always nice to be here in this lovely place. And if anyone responsible for taking care of us can hear me, thank you. Glad to be here. So I'm not going to spend much time talking about the lack of snow or where we are in the drought, because we had such a good report yesterday. But I want to tell you how I gauge the winter without the almanac, of course. Is that when I was a kid growing up, we always gauged whether we were having a normal snowfall winter or not by how many times we got the tractor and blade stuck in the quarter-mile road to the mailbox. And in those days, it was pretty often. This year, the times we got it stuck was 0. We never had a snowstorm sufficient to even blade the road. So, and that hasn't changed recently either. The storms just miss our part of Western Slope, and I guess it's the story everywhere. I finally just yesterday, listening to the report, changed my Pollyanna view of looking forward, because I say it'll always rain sometime. It's going to get better, but I'm not believing it for this summer. So everyone needs to plan accordingly, and I guess we all are. So maybe next year it'll be better. The Colorado Basin Roundtable continues a very vigorous monthly schedule. We have a full roundtable meeting every other month. That next one is this coming Monday. So if any of you happen to be around our part of the state, come by and see us. It's always in Glenwood Springs. This Monday we'll start at noon. We feed you first, so you could even leave if you wanted to, but nobody does. We have great attendance always, and good discussion and lots of activity. So that, and then the next month we have a reduced version. Anyone that can call in or come into the River District's office, we call it our Next Steps meeting, and that's sort of how we stage the rest of our business. And a lot of good work going on there too. So the other meeting I would invite you to, you already know about, is April 24th, the 4 Basin Joint West Slope Roundtable meeting, and I think it's at the Ute Water District offices in Grand Junction. And that's also a good one we always want to invite our colleagues from elsewhere than the West Slope. There's I think this is a good opportunity to share in the thinking and the conversation. So April 24th. Unless you want some wisdom from the almanac, which I have plenty of, that's all the report I have.
All right. Thank you, Director George. Any questions? All right. Well, we'll move on to is Celine with us? Okay. Celine with the San Juan, San Miguel, Dolores River Basin's report. Welcome, Celine.
Thank you, Chairman. 7. And 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. changes in the snowpack in the combined basin. So I think it's not a good winter when we're looking at the 2015 line, which is the green line, and wishing that we were there. But we will hope for a little more precipitation this month. I think we have a couple of opportunities for that. Other than that, the Southwest Basin Roundtable has not met since our last meeting, but has put on a number of really good workshops. One of them, the Colorado Ag Water Alliance workshop that Director Ryan mentioned yesterday, was really great, and I wanted to thank him for coming down and also for the other presenters at that workshop. I thought the discussion was really good. We also had a stream management plan workshop that was well attended, and I wanted to thank Chris Sturm for his attendance there. The Environmental and Recreational Needs Committee of the Roundtable has had several meetings over the winter, working on a few projects. And other than that, the Southwestern Water Conservation District's annual water seminar is coming up on April 6th in Durango. I think the topic of the seminar and the agenda look really great. It's about building resilience and responding to fires, floods, and drought. So I would invite anybody who's interested to come down. I think the event has been in capacity for the last couple of years, so register early. And that is all I have for my report by phone today.
All right. Thank you, Director Hawkins. And thanks for attending the meeting by phone. You're showing quite the diligence there. So thank you. There is one question. Okay. The date of the Durango conference was the question? April 6th? Is that right?
It is April 6th, yes.
Any other questions for Director Hawkins? All right. Thank you very much. And now on to Gunnison River Basin, Director McLeod.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have the same bad news that everyone else does. Andrew, can we see the graphs there? Our basin is kind of divided in half diagonally. The southwest portion is in severe drought, while the eastern and northern part is only moderate drought. So not too bad. The snow tells reflect the same variability, because at the high end, we've got one that shows 71% of average. At the low end, one at 42% of average. So the range is from 42 to 71% of average in snow water equivalent. There are two graphs there, and you can see the lowest line is the current line, and the one just above it, the turquoise one, is 2002. So you can see where we're headed in terms of the year. We're just a little bit below 2002. You can slide that up. There's one just below that too. I mean, there are two graphs on that page. There you go. So even as we move up into the northeastern part of the basin, it's still the same bad news, where we have the middle lines are the median and the average. The red line is last year, and the struggling line at the bottom is the current condition in the Gunnison Basin. One more. The good news, if there is any, is that our storage is in pretty good shape. We're getting about average inflows into the reservoirs right now. It's still early in the year, of course, but as you can see, we've got good storage in Blue Mesa and Taylor Park. Paonia is low, but that's typical. That's the way that reservoir operates, and they're doing some work on the dam there as well, so they're not filling it as early. Same as Silverjack fills late also, but you can see that we're in pretty good shape for storage, which may save the year for a few weeks anyway. The Gunnison Basin Roundtable met Monday evening. We had a presentation from Eric Kuhn and John Karen, which is the same thing we saw yesterday. So I did take a nap yesterday during that part. And then we got to talking about the West Slope Four Basin Roundtable meeting and how that would all take place. But we had a very spirited discussion about the Water Supply Reserve Fund grants and the lack of funds, and as I mentioned yesterday, the distribution of those funds. So there's a high level of interest in the Gunnison Roundtable. Our basin account is, even after the grants today, if they're approved, is still fairly healthy, but we had one application come in that requested a sizable amount of state funding, and Craig's analysis was don't hold your breath. So we will feel the pain very quickly. As I've reported a couple of times before, this board made a very generous grant to the Upper Gunnison River Water Conservancy District for our watershed planning activity, and Chris talked about that subject yesterday a little bit. When we were in Walden, I passed around the brochures that we're using to gather stakeholder input, but the younger members of our planning committee are saying, you know, the way to communicate today is through video and visual and media and so on and so forth. So the committee decided to create a video to present to stakeholder groups to invite them to join the process. So I'm going to show you that today. It's 6.5 minutes, but I think they did an excellent job with one exception. The producers, and they tell me it was the producers who did this, said it turned out when they finished the first cut, it was too long. So guess who ended up on the cutting room floor? But I did get a 20-second voiceover. You'll spot it when it comes in. Not from me, but somebody else read my script. So. Can we dim the lights a little bit, Andrew? There we go. That video.
We're all interconnected, and the water is what connects us together.
We live and die on water out here in Colorado. Everything that goes on in this valley is centered around water, not only agriculture, but recreation. Virgil and Lee Span Ranches, we've been operating since 1880. It's family owned and operated. I believe I am the 6th generation that is still here, and hopefully it can continue on the legacy.
34 years since I've got into the outfitting business, and all the time I've spent on the rivers, both fishing, kayaking, and boating, has been so rewarding. It's been great to be able to share all those experiences with all the tourists that come to visit, all the friends that have come in this area, and of course all the students at Western State that have enjoyed the rivers over the years.
We are all connected, and I think the uniqueness of this valley, which is probably the biggest draw, is the fact that it's so diverse.
I feel really lucky to live here. We have these beautiful landscapes and these really unique ecosystems here. And protecting the health of these watersheds is crucial for our community and also for all of the wildlife that live here and the people that use these rivers.
I can't imagine the valley here without the reservoirs that we have in here and the freshwater lakes and the rivers.
We're at the top of the headwaters of the Colorado River, and living here we really have a responsibility to be the stewards of those headwaters.
The majority of people in the Upper Gunnison Basin get their water from municipal water providers.
So within the city of Gunnison, we have just over 6,000 residents, and we have approximately 2,300 different residences that rely on city water.
the fishing in the Gunnison and the Taylor River is the best it's ever been since I moved here in '71. And that's because of the good water quality that we have here and that we really need to keep.
The Gunnison River is a tributary of the Colorado River, a river that serves over 40 million people in 7 states in Mexico. The law of the Colorado River has created obligations among those 7 states in Mexico. As we plan for our future, we need to stay informed on how Colorado River developments and obligations may affect our water supply in the Upper Gunnison Basin.
Projections are that stream flows in our basin will be diminished by some 20% by mid-century due to climate change. At the same time, there is projected to be an increase in population from somewhere between 50 to 100.
Already, we're seeing some pretty substantial changes in our hydrograph. We're getting precipitation a little bit later in the year, and we're seeing a lot of earlier runoff. So what that means for our environment is low flows in the late season, and that can really stress our fisheries and also be a stress for our local water users who are trying to draw water out of the rivers at the same time.
In 2002, when we had a low water year, my rafting company did about 50% of the normal business. The water temperature just got so warm that the fish were inactive and they're stressed out. It really damages the fishery also.
Water is very important to us. If we don't have water, we can't grow the grass, we can't grow the cows. We wouldn't be able to ranch here, and my family wouldn't be here.
We need your help in planning for the future of water in our basin.
Healthy stream ecosystems really support all other uses in our basin. We're hoping that through working together in watershed management planning, we can find those solutions that will help protect our local ecosystems and rivers in the face of increased pressure from growth and the increased pressures of a changing hydrograph due to climate change.
Watershed planning in the Gunnison Valley is absolutely essential to ensure that we're managing and protecting our water rights within the valley and ensuring we have the best possible water quality.
Protecting these natural assets is crucial to ensuring that this place remains as beautiful of a paradise as it is now for people that are yet to come.
We need everybody to be involved so that we can go as a community in the right direction. If we start together, we'll maybe end up together.
There's still a place for these open landscapes and these big green valleys that we can drive through in the summer and just kind of disconnect and kind of get back to that kind of more simple way of living. And
we all enjoy living here, and we're all interconnected.
So whether you're an irrigator, a boater, somebody that enjoys fishing, or if you just drink water, we all use water in this valley, and we should all contribute our ideas, our concerns, and our potential solutions to this process. Your input as a stakeholder is really important in helping us identify these issues and also identify what might work for us as a community.
That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Director McLeod. Nice video. Very nicely done. Any questions for Director McLeod? All right, we'll move on to the North Platte Basin, Director Wettenberg.
Well, good morning. I would also like to thank our hosts for their wonderful hospitality here. Couple things. Got a slideshow at the end. I hopefully will be somewhat entertaining. About 3 or 4 years ago, I gave one on the hang operations in North Park, kind of an ag thing. This is more to do with cowboys and cowgirls kind of thing. So that's our theme for this one. Some old, some new, but it's kind of interesting. I don't want to press on this very hard, but we're not, like I've told you several times before, we really don't know what bad is in the North Platte. I mean, we're sitting at about 90%, so we're pretty optimistic. We're a couple pretty good snowstorms away from things are kind of normal, so we're pretty fortunate about that. our roundtable's doing some pretty good work here lately. A bunch of us got together the other day, and we really wanted to try and get the younger people involved. We really don't have a set agenda for them. We just want to get them and find out what their interests are and build a program around what they're interested in. That get some more folks interested in, hopefully in water, and that's our main goal. We have a lot of folks that and I'm one of them. We're getting older, and we really see the need to help our young people try and get a start. So hopefully working on that. And with that, let's look at some pictures. And I had some help with this. This is just old stuff, old homestead cabin here. And these ladies at the time this was high fashion here. And this was too. You'll notice the chaps that lady has, those were called woolly chaps. They were made out of Angora sheepskin. Really warm in the wintertime. In the summertime, not so much. Two ladies, and the rest of them are cowboys there. These could be some more ladies here in front of this is actually at the house here, but these pictures could be anywhere in the West. They just happen to be in North Park, but pretty much a little bit of recreation. Actually, back in those days, this was not recreation. This was a long time ago. Kids, all the ranch kids would go to town because the county roads were impassable. So most of the time they'd ski back and forth. It wouldn't happen on every weekend, but like once a month, like my father and my grandmother, and she was usually the one that kept all the kids in town. So there'd be, her and like 6 or 10 little boys, which I don't know how she put up with all that, but she did somehow. Anyway, she'd take them back and forth, and they would normally ski. I think it was probably more work to get them out there than it was to actually, they really didn't much care. But anyway, they had a good thing. You can tell that picture, the wind's blowing. A little bit of summertime stuff. You'll notice dogs are a big thing. I mean, that's just the way of the West. A little different clothing, but you get the gist of it. This was National Western Stock Show. Back in the early years, just about everybody in North Park, you went to stock show. It was a big thing. This is they were just kind of getting ready to go. You had to kind of get your livestock somewhat cleaned up a little bit. So pens of the National Western. You can kind of look back there. This is a long time ago.
Is that your family, Wattenberg brothers? Then?
Yeah. They were actually fairly successful. And you'll notice all this, and during this period of time, Hereford cattle. You very seldom ever saw any Angus or crossbreed cattle. It was all straight Hereford cattle. But yeah, that was a big deal. That was probably a 1950s picture. Pretty short Hereford steer there. This picture, the kid's pretty short and the calf's even shorter. So that was probably circa 1950s in there too. You can tell cattle got a little bit taller. Still a Hereford calf. They have a wonderful disposition. That was one thing about Herefords. Then we moved over into the Angus type breed. You can always win when you have pretty girls showing your cattle. That's a key to good showmanship. Yeah, here we go. Just a little bit different. Of course, you can tell the livestock got a lot taller, and various breeds there. Maybe. Oh, here we go. Yeah, these were just other pictures. Just getting ready to do some ranch work. Maybe, maybe not. There we go. Wintertime picture. Big hats too. That was a thing. Freight wagon in Walden. That was about circa 1888, I think. Yeah, that's Main Street, Walden. This one, first train into Walden, 1909. The engineer actually, he had a sense of humor. From what I can gather, everybody in North Park, they came to see the train. Anyway, I mean, there was a huge crowd around this train, and the engineer, he yelled out, "Get out of the way, I'm going to turn around." And I guess people just scattered. You know, they were like, "Holy moly, he's going to turn around." They were like gone. Anyway, just some more train photos. That was definitely the way. If you wanted to leave North Park in the early days, when the train was there, you took the train. Otherwise, it was a sled ride from Walden to Laramie. It was, you were on the sled. This is a picture. We were trailing, and I wasn't in this photo, but we would trail cattle from the ranch to the railhead there in Walden to ship them out. I also learned quite a few things. You learn a lot about water. When I was younger, I got to go on these trips a couple of times. It was kind of on the job training for ranch kids. If you were doing something important on the ranch, you stayed home from school to go do something on the ranch. And you know, this is a big payday for all ranches, is when you ship your cattle once a year. Anyway, we would stop at the North Platte. You would let those cattle drink until they were completely full, and they weighed more. So you had a little bit of, it was a business opportunity to learn things. And, you know, my first experience that water will pay you at some point in time. Yeah, it's the wintertime thing. Stockyards in Walden, shipping yearling steers. This one, I think, was just a picture of a rail car in the stockyards in Denver. Most of you have been on that road at one point in time. And that's how we do it nowadays. So, Director Goebel, this may be some interest to you. Actually, when they designed the first cattle pod, it was a gentleman from either Lamar or La Junta that came up with the design for that. So sold the patent to, I believe, some trailer company, and that's where the first cattle pod started. Yeah, the roads. Yeah. Yeah, the picture, early Walden, freight trains. A little bit later. Of course, so if it wasn't in the summertime, everything was via sled in the wintertime. This one, Director Gallagher, should be somewhat of interest. Rabbit ears, probably 1930s. You'll notice the ears are the way they used to be. Yeah, Highway 40. Yeah, far cry from what it is today. This picture had a photo or a writing on the back said Walden's finest. So I'm not sure what the worst was, but this is, yeah, a little rough. Now this was, yeah, mass transportation here in North Park. And this is a little later one, but CDOT's having a bad day there. So. Yeah, back to rabbit ears. I'm not sure. I think my partner might have got these a little bit out of whack, but you can see this is 1960s. The ears are still kind of there. This is 2 years ago. You can see they've gotten a little smaller. And that's the latest one, and rabbit ears is kind of looking not like rabbit ears anymore. So, yeah, it is. It's falling away. Yeah, we thought we'd be politically correct in this one. Doctor and some cattle, early years, a little bit later. Oh, this picture was, we were doing the thing. Yeah. Anybody recognize the guy in the center? Oh man, you guys ruined it for me. I was designing this thing here, but yeah. How many of you didn't know that? Oh, we'll send you a good movie sometime. Yeah, we've had a few of our own. Yeah, just cowboys. You'll see the shaps. That was a big thing. This lady, her name was Mamie Leake. She spent quite a little bit of time in Hollywood doing stunt work. She was a very good horse person. That was when she was dressed up, ready to go. Yeah, it was just one of the family goofing off. But yeah, that was a. This one, we tend to stop at Starbucks and do our thing every morning. Before there was electricity, this was a daily chore. You went to the river, got your water, carried it back, boiled it, and then you made your coffee. So it's a far cry from what we have today. Back to irrigating. That tool that he's getting his boot off with is called the boot jack. So, and I'm not sure where that one came from. Probably Nevada, would be my guess. But, these ladies are sitting on the head gate. One of them is actually the person who it's named after, this diversion. That was taken pretty early. One of the same ones a little bit later. This is when we have too much water. That's at the house. I don't think that's going to happen this year, but then on some of our non-consumptive things, we used to like to eat these things. So as you can tell, we used to eat them. Yeah. Anyway, there was a lot of recreational things built in the park early years for primarily hunting and fishing lodges. Then we got into more of the fish-friendly catcher and leash program. So, yeah, bad habits. I don't know what it is about cowboys wanting to ride something that's not a horse, but everybody's got to do it, including me. Worst I ever got bucked off is we saddled a Hereford cow up one time, and man, I mean, she bedded me down. Woo, Lordy. Yeah, just some of the things we do in wintertime. Still a lot of people feed with teams and horses. You could usually tell the deeper the snow, more horses you put in front of you. I'm not sure what the one is up there on top of that stack. I really haven't figured that one out. But yeah, in those days, you pitched your hay on, you pitched it off. So they got a pretty good workout. This is a picture of our daughter. It's back to ranch kids get to do everything. She'd go with us every day. Actually, that little box there, it was super warm in there. I mean, the radiant heat in there was like, it was actually a good deal. She thoroughly enjoyed that. But yeah, it's just things ranch kids do. Yeah. had plenty of clothes and plenty of things to do. So yeah. This is just 4 head of horses on a hydrofork. So that's when things got a little bit more mechanicalized. You'd use that hydrofork to load your sled with. Still pitched it off, and you didn't see this very often, but there's some guys that you'd run 6 head of horses. So once in a while, you'd have to take mechanicalized equipment, but you still see they're still pitching hay. Some guy on a little dozer. That's about an 8 to 10 foot high windbreak there. So plowing snow to get hay trucks in and out. So unfortunately, that didn't happen this year, but not too long ago it did. So now I got home and I get shovel to walk. So. And this, a lot of people did this early, particularly early years. It was just extra income. Everybody did whatever they needed to make a living. This one, these ladies are actually just around the corner. It's a hand-tied hay baler. What they would do, they would pitch that hay into that baler, and then it would make little bales, but you hand-tied them. It was it was a labor-intensive process, but. And everybody went to work. It was male, female, it didn't matter. Everybody worked. Some winter work there. A lot of winter work there. Just a picture of shipping some hay early 1900s. A little bit later in the summertime there. Yeah, fixing fence. That's easy. It never fails. It's always there. Yeah, I don't know. Child labor laws maybe might get us into trouble there, but so branding pictures. That's early century stuff. These are usually always. Usually get all the neighbors. That used to be a big thing till we kind of ended up with a lot of corporate ranches when it was all just family ranches. You always went to the neighbors, helped them out, and they'd come back and help you too. So that was a big deal. Yeah, this was prior to the Taylor Grazing Act. And I spoke to this previously about just various ranches. That one's actually still there. It really doesn't, houses look the same. So they had a horse roundup in North Park. Like I say, prior to the Taylor Grazing Act, it was all free range. So everything we did was with horses. You hayed with them, you fed with them, everything. So once a year, they gather those horses up, usually before haying time. And that's just some of the crowd that was out getting it done. But yeah, they would just go around the park and gather up them horses. They were all running out on sagebrush ground. They'd usually do that all winter long too. But yeah, quite the cowboy hats. Was pretty interesting. Horses you couldn't use, they would find other entertainment for them. So. This one picture of putting shoes on one of those horses. That's a Scotch rope that guy has a hold of. Usually you would use that. Horses invariably, they will either bite you or kick you. So that you'd just hold their leg up there a little bit and then they wouldn't kick you. And you'll notice the guy on the front, he's still holding on to that horse because he would reach around there and bite that guy that's putting the shoes on, and it would hurt. Yeah, you always good to have dogs. Kids and dogs. Can't go wrong with kids and dogs. Yeah, this is just some pictures of just yearlings in North Park. Kind of early spring cow-calf thing. Later in the fall. And that one's my favorite, adios. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Wattenberg.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate those pictures.
Some of them are pretty interesting.
Any questions for Director Wattenberg? All right. Well, I guess it's my turn for the South Platte Basin. I don't have a video or any pictures, so sorry about that. Just our basin in general, the river actually isn't running too bad right now. We had a little rainfall on the Front Range, little snowfall in our area, so the river's coming up a little bit. The reservoirs are full. Our snowpack is second only to Director Wattenberg's. But it brings to mind, you know, you saw Director McLeod showing the reservoir storage. That is the reason we have reservoir storage in Colorado, is because of years like this. So when we're going into the South Platte with lower than normal snowpack, but we have good storage in all of our reservoirs. And so that's why they were built in the first place, to help us weather these long, very little precipitation. And I always hear people say, well, we're way off normal or this or that. And I just think, well, in Colorado, we're a land of extremes. You can see it in the pictures of Director Wattenberg's. We're in a land of extremes, and what normal is just a bunch of extreme years added up and divided by the number of years you put together. So, and that's normal. And very seldom do you hit normal. So it's just something that we need to always keep in mind. So in the farming and ranching business, you always are pretty optimistic. You know, you always, like Director George said, there's always next year. And so we just pull ourselves up and continue to move on. And we're used to these ups and downs, and we know according to our priorities where we stand and how to plan. So it all works pretty good in Colorado with our water laws. But as I said, there's no call on the South Platte right now, so that's good. We have recharge going on to help offset well pumping for this summer, so we should be in good shape there as well. As far as the South Platte Basin Roundtable, we have a groundwater technical committee on the South Platte Basin Roundtable, and they came out with their report. And it was mainly dealing with high groundwater in the Gilchrist and LaSalle area. So there are several options in that report, but there was some contention there as well. A lot of the options require quite a bit of collaboration and help from farmers, from city people, from everybody in that area to make them work. And sometimes that doesn't always go as smoothly as you would hope. So I think it's a good report, and it was good information, and hopefully we can come around to helping that area out. And the one thing that, you know, there's dewatering, but there's also water supply that could get the wells pumping fully again. And so that's kind of what we are looking forward to doing. And on that, it's not just for the Gilchrist area, it's also for the entire South Platte. And in Sterling and Fort Morgan, there's been areas that have been dewatered, and it's with the help of the CWCB. And I just want to thank Eric Skye for coming out to Fort Morgan and Sterling and meeting with people and doing a lot of good work out there. So I appreciate it very much. Also on the South Platte Basin Roundtable and in the Metro Roundtable, a group of us, soon after the Basin Implementation Plan was released, clear back in 2015, before the Colorado Water Plan, but right after the Basin Implementation Plan was released. Doug Robotham, who was then with the Nature Conservancy, talked to several of us and just asked us to kind of get together and meet once in a while and kind of take off our hats and just begin discussions on what we could do in the South Platte Basin to maybe develop some water through multi-use and environmentally friendly ways. So we started discussions and we met whenever we could. There was Mark Waggy of Denver Water, Joe Stibrich with Aurora Water, Eric Heacox originally with South Metro, Joe Frank with the Lower South Platte Water Conservancy District, Eric Wilkinson with the Northern Colorado Water Conservancy District, Sean Cronin with the Left Hand and St. Vrain Water Conservancy District, and myself. And we just began discussing, and then we started doing with funds provided by some of the bigger entities, Northern and Denver, Aurora, South Metro. We started looking at some of the things that we could do, and more on a regional basis. So if you think of it as a big, the way it ended up, it's like a big WISE project for the South Platte Basin. So it's more of a regional, because there's, the interesting thing was when we started talking about this, and then we had the South Platte storage study come out. And it's pretty amazing how they just dovetailed right together. And so we brought this out at the last roundtable meeting, both at the Metro. Joe Frank and Lisa Darling with South Metro presented to the Metro Basin, and Joe Frank and myself and Lisa Darling presented to the South Platte Basin Roundtable. So we have some interesting ideas and some places for storage, aquifer storage. We don't have anything specific, but just in general, how these things might work together. The South Platte storage study was more on specific reservoir locations, and ours was more, how do all these things work together? And what we find is it's more of a collaboration of people than it is, can engineers build it? Can you actually fund it? It's, are people willing to buy into working together and doing things together? And so that's what we're looking forward to. And I think we're going to present a little bit to the IBCC at our next meeting in May. And then maybe sometime we could come to this board as well and talk about some of those ideas. So that's something that we did at our roundtable meeting this last month. A couple other things on happy notes. Water Education Colorado, formerly the Colorado Foundation for Water Education, is hosting their President's Reception on May 11th. And 2 South Platte people are being honored. So we have Joe Frank, who was here yesterday with the Lower South Platte Water Conservancy District. He is their Emerging Leader Award winner. And then Tom Check, who used to be with the Central Colorado Water Conservancy District and now with One World, One Water in the Metro state. He is their Water Leader of the Year award. So both South Platte people, and so we're excited about that. And lastly, I just want to mention that, as you know, when we were here last time, Eric Wilkinson from the Northern Colorado Water Conservancy District came and they asked for money for the Windy Gap firming project. At that time, Eric had announced his retirement, and he was going to retire whenever somebody was moved in to replace him. So they did a nationwide search, and just last week they announced that Brad Wind is the finalist for that position. So the only finalist. They have to call it a finalist. They can't call him the next general manager yet because of the Water Conservancy District laws. They have to put it out there for a couple weeks, and so we're excited about that. Brad is originally from Fort Morgan, Colorado, a farm kid, and he's been working with Northern for quite a while, and so we're excited to have him take over the helm for Eric Wilkinson. So that is my report. Is there any questions? Okay, we'll move on. The Arkansas Basin Report, Director Goebel.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. And we're kind of envious in the Arkansas. I don't think we've had a free river in a couple decades. So I have a couple of slides here in a minute, but there's a saying I heard growing up in the desert that it always rains here when you need it, because whenever it rains, you need it. So I've always appreciated that. So the Arkansas Basin Roundtable met last week in Pueblo, where we heard a presentation, thank you, from Kelly Thompson with Division of Water Resources on phase 1 of the development of the ARC DSS. Phase 1 is underway, and similar to other basins, will include a GIS mapping function, a state mod and state CU model, and all the historical data that goes with them, and some very useful administrative and accounting tools. So we're very much appreciative to this board for helping fund that effort, and are looking forward to having this new system. The Arkansas River Compact Administration held a special engineering committee meeting in Manhattan, Kansas, that I believe Director Mitchell and Director Ryan attended in late February to discuss potential spill operations of John Martin Reservoir, and to discuss an agreement for the approval of a second year of allowing Colorado Parks and Wildlife to store the Highland Ditch water right in the John Martin Reservoir Fish and Wildlife Permanent Pool. And like Director Mitchell mentioned in her report yesterday, there was a follow-up phone meeting earlier this week, and due to all the hard work from many organizations, ARCA approved a resolution to allow this new source for a second year. This worked really well last year, and we're hopeful it'll eventually be a long-term agreement between the states. So on hydrology, we've got a similar sad story in the Arkansas Basin. A lot of these graphics you've already seen, but since I already put my report together, I'll go through kind of quickly. So the U.S. Drought Monitor shows that 74% of Colorado is considered to be in a drought condition, including all of the Arkansas Basin. As of today, the snowpack in the basin is sitting at 58% of median, with most of the snowtail sites in the northern end of the basin experiencing most of the precipitation. I went back and looked at the last 50 years of data, and there were only 2 other years where snowpack in the Ark Basin was this low during this time of the year, 1979 and 1981. So not looking too good. As you can see on this graph, 2002, which is shown in red, the lighter color red I have labeled there, came close to as low as we are now, but it was still actually higher than where we are now. So that's our sad blue line, Heather. These dry conditions have led to numerous wildfires already popping up. The Carson Midway fire on the Fort Carson military base burned over 3,000 acres. Another fire in southern Prowers County burned almost 10,000. And the State Line fire, which is in New Mexico, burned over 28,000 acres, and more than 10,000 of those were in Colorado. So similar to the other stories around the state, we have very dry conditions. That's the bad news. The good news is that all of our major reservoirs are storing at or above their averages. Pueblo Reservoir is currently storing just under 270,000 acre feet, which is 6% above what it had this time last year and 120% of average. So looking at this graph, the orange line on the chart shows the maximum conservation pool. You can see that it increases during the winter months to 311,000 acre feet, and that's when the joint use pool becomes available. So we can bump up into the flood pool, but it has to be back down to a little over 245,000 by April 15th, and to allow for flood storage. So the blue area shows the actual storage in the reservoir during this water year. Any storage above that orange line is subject to spill. So the Bureau of Reclamation, as of Tuesday, is projecting a spill of about 9,600 acre feet to occur around mid-April. But this obviously depends on how fast folks move their water out of the reservoir. Storage participants have been planning for a spill since last fall, and have been moving their water to other storage vessels, including recharge or leasing it to irrigators to try and lessen the spill. And Pueblo Reservoir last spilled in 1998, so it's been about 20 years. If it does spill, the owners of this spilled water would lose control of this water, and it would be considered native flow. And a large portion of that would likely end up in John Martin Reservoir, which is currently storing 316,000 acre feet. So this is 140% above what it had this time last year, and it is at 230% of average. So it's got a lot of water in it. The orange line there is the top of the conservation storage. So once we cross that line, then it'll be subject to spill. So it's within about 15,000 acre feet of that line. So ditch companies downstream have just now started making releases for irrigation, which will draw down the reservoir. So basically local precip and whether or not Pueblo Reservoir spills will be the two major factors in determining if it spills or not. So like Jim mentioned, or Director Jan mentioned, this is the reason we have storage, and we're very thankful for it. Going into dry years, we're thankful to have water in the reservoirs, but more storage is always welcome. And I guess in recognition of being at the Department of Ag and being National Ag Week, my wife sent me this picture. It's kind of tough to see, but just had a brand new baby calf. I guess that was yesterday morning. So, but you can see we've had a few wet years, so the grass is tall, and now it's very dry. So very careful about fires. So anyway, with that, that concludes my report.
Director Goebel. Any questions for Director Goebel? All right. Director Wells, City and County of Denver Director.
I don't have a verbally describe how it looks. First, on a personal note, that I am going to be leaving Denver Water at the end of August. And so while I'm retiring from Denver Water, I'm not retiring from life. I intend to continue on this board. In fact, I'm really looking forward to having the ability to serve on the board without a day job that usually prevents me from attending tours or spending other time that I might otherwise really like to spend. So I'm kind of taking my lead from Eric Kuhn, who announced a while in advance my successor should be in place by the end of June, and then I can turn my attention to actually doing onboarding and organizing all the things I have accumulated over 26 years. So that's my story. With regard to Denver Water's snowpack, the Colorado in our drainages, Blue and Fraser, manages to keep lumping along at just about normal, just kind of toeing the line. The South Platte, on the other hand, is sort of headed to peak snowpack of 2002 levels, which is the worst it's ever been. So we'll hope for improvement. As a result of that, Cheeseman is down a little bit. Our storage is more than normal at this time of year. It's 88%, which is great. Cheeseman's down a little bit, however. So we started the Roberts Tunnel because there is snowpack in the Blue, which will flow into Dillon. So we're trying to get some water over on this side of the divide before the runoff. We've had some interesting events. We are just about to get our FERC license amendment because Gross Reservoir is a FERC project. In addition to the Core 404 permit, which we got last July, I think, we have to go to FERC for a license amendment because we're enlarging the dam. And FERC was a cooperating agency with the Corps on the EIS. And even though it took 10 years or so, or 14, FERC was in the process all along. So they agreed to use the Corps EIS or their EIS, which is an enormous efficiency. However, they did issue their own environmental assessment. They looked at any environmental effects that weren't covered in the core EIS. And what they found wasn't covered were actually all good things, mitigation efforts that Denver Water has undertaken since the core permit, including a major agreement with the Forest Service on 4E conditions in our FERC license. We also studied that the quarry that we're going to use for sand and gravel, the quarry, we were looking at one on Forest Service land, and we discovered we can do it on land that we own. We can do all the gravel and most of the sand on site, and that site will be inundated when the reservoir is full. So we eliminate about, I don't know, 10,000 truck trips up the roads to Gross Reservoir. There'll still be trucks. Not everything can be mined on site, and there won't be the visual scar issue that, people in Boulder are very upset about. So it'll be underwater. So they actually found some things that the core EIS overstated the harmful environmental impacts because all these other things have happened. So that's pretty good. The comment period on the EA was extended, and I think it ends first week of April. We did get a comment from Boulder County, which we were anticipating. So it wasn't too bad, actually. Tree removal is a big issue for them, and that's fine. We agree that it's important, and we don't have a specific plan in place yet. We're also dealing with FERC on Strontia Springs, where we have hydro. Strontia Springs Reservoir. We need to do some electrical work, so we want to add capacity to the hydro. And under federal law, if you add a little bit of hydro, not enough to make you big, but bigger than you were, you can get an opportunity to become an exempt facility under FERC. So you don't have to renew your license every so often. So we've applied to amend the license because we're adding hydro, but then also turn that into an exemption. And there was a comment period on that. That has ended and no one commented. So that's doesn't mean it's going to happen, but that will be a great accomplishment. The other issues that Denver Water is facing right now have to do with the Water Quality Control Division. We still have Reg 84 and adding uses to reclaimed water. There's also legislation to add uses to reclaimed water. So those things are going along. We'll see. We're about to do our rulemaking proposal to the division. The hearing is still set for August of this year. We also have another issue with the division. We have lead service lines in our service area, really almost all, in the city and county of Denver in homes 1950 or older. There really is a bright dividing line. People quit using lead in 1950 because copper became common. So they just quit using lead. It was more expensive and more difficult to deal with. So we kind of know where they are. There may be 40,000 or 50,000 homes with service lines. And that's really kind of okay. We have a plan to replace them as we encounter them in street work and that sort of thing. However, back in 2010, I think we tripped a lead level in testing. And out of that, we had to do a notification of 250,000 accounts and do a corrosion study. So the thing with lead, what happened in Flint was they provided highly corrosive water, which apparently ate the scale in about 2 days, and lead precipitates out of the pipes. We don't have that kind of corrosive, our corrosion control is really pretty good, but we did the study, and the one thing that would do the most corrosion control is adding orthophosphate to our water, to our treated water, because then it thickens the coating on all the distribution lines and stuff. Our preferred alternative is to adjust the pH, which improves corrosion control. the orthophosphate does more, only incremental more, at a huge cost just for Denver water. And I'll get to the other effects in a minute. But what the regulation says is optimal. So optimal means optimal. The problem with orthophosphate, first of all, it coats everything, everybody's line, whether it needs to be coated or not. But the big thing is it puts more phosphorus in the environment. That phosphorus goes through water treatment plants, it goes onto lawns, it goes into the river. It puts way more phosphorus in the environment. So wastewater treaters, the Chatfield Basin Authority, which has a phosphorus control measure, water quality control measure, the WISE Authority, who's going to be getting this, all these people have now come to the commission to say, this doesn't make any sense. It's millions, tens of millions of dollars. But the commission actually has no role in the decision. It's just the division's decision. So at any rate, that sort of movement is going on. We just yesterday got a letter from the division kind of saying, too bad, optimal's optimal, but we would like to talk to you all about, maybe you can get some grants to treat the phosphorus once it gets to your treatment plant. Maybe have people not water their lawns because that would help. It just, there's such a simple solution here, but, regulators can kind of be that way. So we'll see. The commission didn't know about this issue, didn't understand that there's this really bad impact on the environment. The clean water side of the house is not, it's the drinking water side of the house that's doing this, not the clean water side. So at any rate, we'll continue to work on that. There are other ways to handle lead that were much less expensive and much less environmentally destructive. But so far, we're not gaining any traction on that. But it's, kind of never a dull moment. So that's my report. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Director Wells. Any questions for Director Wells? Moving on, the Rio Grande Basin. Director Dutton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for our hosts for this nice facility. And I really want to emphasize thank you to the staff for all the work that you've done getting ready for this meeting. It's been quite a meeting. There's been so many issues. And I think today we're really going to zip through some things and see a lot of stuff. And it does not go unnoticed how hard the staff worked to prepare for this. So thank you for that. Yesterday, Karen and Director Ryan gave great updates about the ongoing legal matters in the Rio Grande Basin. And so I'd like to echo their appreciation for the Attorney General staff who did an incredible job representing us both at the Supreme Court and in Alamosa for the well rules trial. It was a great effort, and they represented us really well. So thank you to the staff on that. Our roundtable, the momentum continues to implement, well, thank you, to implement good projects. And you saw 2 of those projects yesterday, and you'll see a handful more today with the WSRF and the water plan grant applications. And it's just really exciting to see people coming together and coalescing around these good projects. And so there's a lot of good going on, and there's a lot more to do. So we're excited about that. I've got my own sad blue line on the screen. So we are hovering right above the dark red line is 2002, which was the worst year on record for us. And so we're in pretty scary territory. And I think there's still some optimism because the community of farmers and ranchers, so people have gone back in their record and looked at other times that things were this bad. And I think once there was a rebound to below average, but still a lot better than this. As the season goes on and it gets scarier, and Director George, I'm like you, I have my measure of how good or bad a winter is, and usually I've been snowmobiling between 15 and 20 times by now, and this weekend I'll go for the 5th time, and it's probably not going to be that great of snow, so it's been a pretty poor snow year. So with that, we are we're rolling out drought messaging. The districts of the valley have come together. And so we are working on newspaper articles and radio stories and trying to get that hydrograph out to as many people as possible and hoping that the farmers and ranchers will take it upon themselves to make the choices they need to make to protect the aquifer and keep us in a good position. We are also going to try to get this poster in as many restaurants and buildings as possible to remind people that regardless of the year, and especially in a year like this year, but any time in the Sandless Valley, water is very precious. And so we want to encourage people to always save water, whether they're municipal users or farmers and ranchers. So hopefully when folks are out at the breweries and stumble in to wash their hands, they'll see this and can think about making good water choices. Directors Randall and Broscheid mentioned the Crane Festival yesterday, and so I thought I'd add some visuals. This is what it looks like when 25,000 big birds come into your neighborhood. As Director Jan mentioned, it is quite loud, but it's also very beautiful, and I enjoy. They don't hang out right next to my house, but we're in an area where they fly over a lot, and so it's pretty cool just to hear them, because they cruise along and talk to each other and have a really neat call that I'm not going to pretend I know how to replicate. So you can Google that. Oh, you can do it. So after the meeting, we can all do our best crane call. And so in addition to being, it's quite a commotion, but they're incredibly beautiful birds, and they are monogamous, so they mate for life. And so you'll see them hanging out. There'll be a pair, and they'll spend all their time together. And it's just quite beautiful. My understanding is they go to water so that they're protected from predators. And so the water was frozen this year, so they're still standing out there. But that's kind of a protection method, is that they flock to the water at night, and then during the day they're out and about. I had a call last week, somebody wondering where to see cranes, and the answer is everywhere. They're all over every barley field. You can see who had a good custom combiner and who didn't, because the cranes are hanging out in certain fields for sure. And so I like that it kind of looks like a Valentine's Day heart, that there's one of those monogamous pairs. They're just so close to each other and they fly really close together. It's really, really neat. Our roundtable is also working on, we're working really hard on education and outreach. We have a pretty active education and outreach committee that's been meeting a couple times a month. And so we're working on planning some tours. With a recent water plan grant, we're going to be able to invest a lot in education in the basin. And so one of the goals of that grant is to do tours both in the basin for the general public and then out of the basin for our roundtable members to continue to get ideas and get inspiration for other things and to see what other people are doing. And so our PEPO coordinator, Judy Lopez, has reached out to the other PEPO coordinators in other basins to ask them, what are the projects you're proud of? And so we're hoping to kind of get a list of, if we were going to come over and see you, Director Goebel, what would be things in the Arkansas Basin that we'd need to see, and some inspiration we could get to bring back home. And so we're looking forward to those tours, and we also look forward to hearing back from the other basins what kind of things you'd love to share with us. We also will be the subject of the Water Education Colorado Basin Tour this year. It's going to be the Rio Grande Basin, and we've got a really fun 2 days planned. I'm not going to spoil it. You can wait, but it'd be great to see many of the people in this room down there. We're going to have a really great time, and we're going to go off the beaten path and see some things that aren't on the normal stops. We looked at the tour from 9 years ago, and we're not going to see any of that stuff. We're going to see all new things and show people what's been going on and where a lot of this investment from CWCB has been going, and the projects that we're proud of. And the WECO tour is on June 11th and 12th, which is a couple days after the runoff. So you can come down, make a weekend of it, and then go on the tour. I wanted to share, it's kind of a shameless plug because I'm big supporters of both of the groups putting this on, but the runoff is an annual fundraiser in Creed, which is a heck of a good time. And then all the money raised from the event goes back into organizations doing river restoration. So it's a really neat and fun event. Eric will be there. So if this isn't reason enough, hanging out with Eric should be. We are also, with our education committee, working on putting together videos, because as Director McLeod mentioned, videos are a great way to communicate to people and awe them with the beauty of your area. And so we have some videos coming up about conservation easements and about the San Luis Valley Radar Project. And we just finished a watershed health video that I would like to share now. And so let's be sure, stay focused till the end, because that's the very best part.
What is a watershed? I knew you were going to ask trick questions.
You can go almost anywhere and mention the Rio Grande, and people know something of it. I think someone the other day said John Wayne might be responsible for that.
It's the area where rain and snow fall onto hills and mountains.
This valley is surrounded by almost 2 million acres of public land. We have 4 monster wilderness areas that are pristine and untouched.
And then the water either infiltrates or runs off the land into streams and rivers.
We go from some of the wettest climates, Wolf Creek Pass getting some of the most snow in Colorado, down to the San Luis Valley, that's one of the driest high elevation deserts in the country.
These incredible natural resources.
But it's also a community that we live in this place and we learn to adapt to it or try to adapt it to us. And you have to figure out how to apply this precious resource and live here and do it sustainably.
And through it all flows the Rio Grande. So the Rio Grande has mostly consumptive needs. It's a large agricultural area. Both groundwater pumping and surface water irrigation comprise well over 90% of the use of water here. Some limited municipal water use from the consumptive side of things. Related to the consumptive side is the non-consumptive side, the water that's not fully consumed by plants or people, have to do with recreation and have to do with fish and wildlife that we cherish for recreation. And so I think the two are very closely intertwined in terms of their importance.
The forests that surround the San Luis Valley make up the watershed of the Rio Grande. That's why forest health is so closely tied to the water users in the San Luis Valley.
Rio Grande National Forest was established originally in 1905. As time has evolved, we still see like those are the primary purposes of forest management here is the water, timber, and grazing. And I would say the major differences that we have in forest management now is that we've added a real responsibility for the wildlife habitat component, and then also a major increase in recreation use here on the forest.
In addition to seeing different ecotypes and different forest types in the Rio Grande National Forest, we also see different responses to disturbance.
The spruce fir as an ecosystem has evolved over time to have and rely on disturbance every 300 to 400 years. And right now, we're looking at being at that disturbance point, where that disturbance can come in the form of insect epidemics, fire, or some other landscape scale disturbance. It's really a once in many generations event that we get to see the system reset itself.
If we humans weren't part of the picture, we could leave the forest alone and let it take care of itself. But since we're here and we rely on the forest and the resources within the watershed, then there's a need to make sure that we can harness those resources while protecting the sustainability of that use.
A healthy watershed provides habitat for wildlife species, wetlands, and the ability to have water quantity and quality that meets the needs of folks off of the forest.
The communities of the Rio Grande Basin have an opportunity to enjoy and utilize the forest, which I think helps not only the health of the people in those communities, but also the health of the local economies.
The ability of the forest to accommodate extractive uses like logging or grazing all connect to economic health.
We've got a lot of good public access, such incredible opportunities for hiking, biking, ATVs, fishing, you name it, that from a recreational perspective, there's something for everyone. I mean, it's the driver in these upper watershed towns like Crete, like South Fork. People live there and people work there because of recreation and tourism. It speaks to our values and our ability to share it with people. The river is everything to all of us.
It's all basically the circle of life. And this entire farm relies on the water that comes through that watershed. We got to have the water to produce the crop. We got to produce the crop so that people have something to eat. And we got to have the healthy soil in order to make it happen.
Every square inch of soil that we're standing on that's affected by that watershed, and when and how the snow melt comes, and when and how the whole thing works. If you think about the amount of water that a cow drinks every day and what she does on a rangeland, the disturbance that the animal causes plants seeds and breaks down the old material and puts it into the soil and then fertilizes it, and then she should move on. As long as we think we own a piece of land, then we have to stay there, then we're in a trap.
Forests and land doesn't stop at organizational or jurisdictional boundaries. And I think within that all by itself is the very precise reason that we have to reach across the fictitious walls to work together.
And so we're taking advantage of the system as a whole, all the different reservoirs, the different operators, the different needs. And we're just looking for those opportunities to help the environment, to help fish, to help recreation as kind of a secondary benefit to some other need that we have as a basin and a water community.
Public engagement is critical when we're talking about projects to improve watershed health, not only to get people involved and make sure that we're having a broad impact, but also to help educate people on what kind of natural resources we have and what type of management is going to occur, with an opportunity to build resiliency in our watersheds.
This generation is full of new ideas and adaptivity, which are going to have to be, because this is an ever-changing market and ever-changing environment.
I don't know if we can really manage it, but if we can manage ourselves and understand our place in it. And a watershed, it's a great place to learn that, because it's a little bit of an enclosed thing and you can kind of get your head around it. I never stop learning. I just have lots of questions. I don't really have too many answers, but the answers are right there. You know, there they are.
And once in a while, I even take a drink of that water. And even a bath.
All right. Thank you, Director Detton. That was her dad at the end, anyway.
He's great.
And I don't think they heard, but he said, sometimes I drink the water and sometimes I even take a bath. So, all right. So for the Yampa White River Basin, Director Gallagher.
Mr. Chair, and we're hoping to have our own video produced by, I think, some of your same producers from down there. We were so impressed with that work. We're looking forward to getting that produced this year and perhaps having it this meeting next year. First, I'd like to say thank you to Director Ryan and Division 6 Engineer Aaron Light for issuing new rules for new exempt wells that have come from subdivisions in Routt County on which the state engineer's office was not asked to form an opinion. And I guess that had resulted in the suspension of exempt well permits. And I think you've issued those new rules and that's lifted the suspension that was put in place. Was it last year? I can't remember, but it's resolved a problem that we had there for lot owners seeking new well permits. So that's moving forward. So my thanks to you and your staff. Yeah. In roundtable news, last week we received the draft report on basin hydrology from Wilson Water Group, and the work really answers a lot of the basic questions about how our river works and how the IPPs might affect the river for better or for worse. It'll also, along with the SWASI input that we expect to get later in the year, help us to update our basin plan for the next version. And it's a real step for our group in moving forward to version 2 of the BIP. Other grant-funded projects continue to move along. That includes the Steamboat Stream Management Plan. The phase 1 is the feasibility and scope of work include a sign-off by the council, City Council of Steamboat Springs in May. So they're expecting a report from that and then to move on to phase 2. The Morgan Bottom project is looking, near Hayden, is also looking for to issue its scope of work for their next phase, which will be the next set of headgates down below the one they finished off this past fall. And they have 2 more after that to work on over the next couple of years. That's been done under the Species Conservation Fund grant. And also the White River Storage Project is continuing on above Rangeley in the feasibility studies. And separate processes, but associated with roundtable objectives, stakeholders in the upper Yampa are considering the feasibility of developing a water fund for leasing stored water from Stagecoach for environmental flows. As you recall, they have come to this board almost annually for new money to provide for flows through Steamboat. And now they want to put it into sustainable mode where they can do this without having to come to this board every time. Another group is assessing the interest and feasibility of developing an integrated water management plan, which will tie in nicely with our next run-up for an update of the basin implementation plan. Our PEPO outreach efforts continue with State of the River meetings in the basin. The meeting that we had in Steamboat on Tuesday night, which I missed because I was here, actually attracted 230 attendees, which is double what we've had in the past. And I thank our PEPO staff and our PEPO committee for getting out the advertising, the word. Every time I ran into a friend around Steamboat, they were talking about going to the meeting. So I was pleased to hear that report from Jim Pokrant, who was there. I also want to say that there are presentations scheduled for the Conservation District meetings in Rangeley as well as in Craig. They're going to occur in April. So I'm hoping to attend at least one of those. Colorado River District has been very instrumental in making these things happen, particularly the big river issues discussion. So we're very pleased that they've been able to support this effort. Other news that's caught the roundtable's attention in the region, the Snake River District has proposed a 10,000 acre-foot reservoir in the West Fork of Battle Creek in southernmost Wyoming to serve irrigators in both in Wyoming and along the Colorado state line. They've requested funding from the state of Wyoming, and the state of Wyoming saying, well, what about those folks in Colorado? So that's an ongoing discussion they're having on up there. Many of you may not be familiar with the little snake. It heads up in the Sierra Madre of southern Wyoming and in the Park Range of northern Colorado. And it flows north up to the state line and then west along the state line where these ranchers their operations straddle the state line. Then it heads south and comes down to the Yampa in Lily Park, which is just east of Dinosaur National Monument. In other news, Waterhorse Resources under Aaron Million has filed a water application with the state of Utah for a diversion of 76 CFS on the Green River just below Flaming Gorge Dam and just above Browns Park, just inside Utah. for the purpose of supplying water to the Front Range via the I-80 corridor. So we'll see if he has any proponents for that water, for that project. But that's a real action on his part. I guess the 76 CFS is perhaps a toe in the water, so to speak, for him. But considering his other ideas earlier, but it may be just a testing ground of interest. Lastly, stakeholders in the Green River below Flaming Gorge have expressed concern and frustration about the impacts of reservoir operations that serve the endangered fish recovery program. The impacts include bank erosion, flooding, and high water and turbidity that affect irrigated ag lands and fishing and river guiding businesses from the dam all the way through Dinosaur Monument to Jensen in Utah. The stakeholders are asking decision makers to address their concerns and will be sending a letter to state and federal authorities. So far, they're frustrated that they can't get their voices heard. So I think this body will expect a letter from them. I might have something from Kevin here. Kevin McBride has been directed by his board, Upper Yampa Water Conservancy District, to engage in consulting efforts on Morrison Creek. So the board has given him a green light on moving forward with the Morrison Creek Reservoir project. And that, Mr. Chairman, is my report.
All right. Thank you very much, Director Gallagher. Any questions for Director Gallagher? All right. Well, thank you all very much. I just wanted to say this could be the last meeting for a couple of our directors. And if some of us aren't appointed and reappointed, it could be a last meeting for half of us, probably.
Over half.
But in particular, Director, reminded me when you were showing your video, the adios thing, this could be the last meeting for Director Wattenberg, Director McLeod. So I would just want to thank you for all your work. But you might be called in to come into the May board meeting or further on. I don't know what's going to happen, but I just want to take just a moment to thank you for all your work, your time, your effort, and Ty, for being chairman. I know it can be a tough thing at sometimes, and Ty, you kind of led us through the hiring of a new director, which is probably above and beyond the call of duty, and so you did a fine job there. And Director McLeod, just for it was okay. It was okay, but it was no. And Director, so I just want to thank you for your time and your efforts. All right, so we're scheduled for a break. If we could do it fairly quickly, be back at 10:30, 10:25, 10:25. All right. We get to hear a lot of water supply reserve fund grants. I almost said account. And Craig's going to lead us off. So welcome, Craig, and let's go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. For the record, I'm Craig DeBoo, CWCB staff. I'll be presenting agenda items 25A through H. Ben Wade will be presenting agenda items 25I through M, and Megan Holcomb will be presenting agenda items 25N through DD. Agenda item 25A. It is an action item and a grant request recommended for approval by the Gunnison Basin Roundtable. The applicant and grantee is the Redlands Water and Power Company for the project titled Pump Plant Modernization Feasibility Study. The purpose of this application is to assist the Redlands Water and Power Company to complete a feasibility study to modernize their pump station number 1 pumping facility. Redlands Water and Power Company intends to complete a comprehensive alternatives analysis and feasibility study in order to initiate a design-build project. Construction of the pump station began in 1917 and is in still use today. The maximum output is 65 cubic feet per second. The 4 electrical horizontal centrifugal pumps are located in the pump pit, allowing for positive suction head. There is 1 vertical turbine regulating pump located outside the pump house in the canal prism. The pump house is in need of extensive upgrade and modification, and electrical switchgear and power lines need replacement to meet National Electrical Code standards. The applicant is providing a cash and in-kind match of $12,000, and all matching requirements have been satisfied. No additional needs or issues have been identified. If approved, I will be CWCB's project manager. The applicant requests $25,500 from the Gunnison Basin account and $37,500 from the statewide account, and staff recommends approval. The applicant was unable to attend today's meeting, but I'm available to answer any questions or address any concerns you may have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Craig. Are there any questions for Craig? Director McLeod.
Well, if there are no questions, Mr. Chairman, I would like to move that we approve the staff recommendation for agenda item 25A for the Redlands Water and Power Company.
Been moved by Director McLeod, seconded by Director Goebel, that we approve staff recommendation on item 25A. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Craig. Next.
Chair, this is agenda item 25B. It is an action item and is a grant request recommended for approval by the Gunnison Basin Roundtable. The applicant and grantee is Ouray County for the project titled Upper Uncompahgre Stream Management Plan. The purpose of this application is to assist Ouray County develop a stream management plan that sets as its objectives the identification of sources of water and projects both immediate and future to fulfill the reasonable expectations of water needs for all users in Ouray County, including municipal and industrial, agricultural for the present and future within the Upper Uncompahgre Basin. The county's efforts to achieve these goals will include coordination of stakeholders, the formation of a steering committee, modeling objectives and scenarios, development and evaluation of various water supply and management strategies, identifying water supply and efficiency projects, and report preparation and administration. The applicant and third parties are providing a cash match of $26,750, and all matching requirements have been satisfied. No additional needs or issues have been identified. If approved, Chris Sturm will be CWCB's project manager. The applicant requests $25,000 from the Gunnison Basin account, $83,200 from the statewide account, and staff recommends approval. If you'll notice, Andrew has just passed out the recommendation for approval came from the Gunnison Basin in 2 steps. The original application was for $25,000 from a statewide account, which the roundtable recommended for approval several months ago. And then the additional $83,200 from the statewide account was just approved by the recommended for approval by the Gunnison Basin Roundtable this past Monday. And so you should have 1 letter in your board packet, and then we handed out a hard copy of the second letter for the statewide account request. Staff recommends approval, and Marty Whitmore, Stream Management Plan Steering Committee Chair, is in attendance, and we're available to take questions or address any concerns you may have. Thank you.
All right. Are there any questions for Craig on this one? Marty, would you like to address the board? Would you please state your name and who you're with?
Marty Whitmore from Ouray County. I'm the steering committee chairman. And I think the thing that's kind of unusual and unique, we think very special about this project, is the Board of County Commissioners did approve and create a special steering committee to approach the stream management plan. We are very grateful to Craig, especially for doing backflips to help us get to you today. And the only thing I would add to his description of the project is it really encompasses not just the municipal, agricultural, industrial kinds of uses, mining, but also the environmental issues. We are looking at in-stream uses for recreation, Trout Unlimited, and the Uncompadre Watershed Partnership are both members of the steering committee, along with the Ouray County Water Users Association, a number of ranches, the municipalities, Tri-County Water, and it's a broad effort. So we thank you very much for staff's recommendation and appreciate your assistance with this.
All right. Thank you very much, Marty. Thanks for coming. Any other questions, or do you have any questions for Marty after she sat down? So, I only had one question, Craig. Did this come before the staff as a stream management plan at one time, and then it was denied? And what was the reason?
My understanding is that it was felt that there wasn't enough emphasis on environmental and recreational components of the stream management plan through the other grant program.
Project, no? Director McLeod.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move that we approve the staff recommendation for agenda item 25B for the Upper Uncompahgre Stream Management Plan.
Been moved by Director McLeod, seconded by Director Wattenberg, that we approve staff recommendation on item 25B. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Continue, Craig.
Chair, this is agenda item 25C. It is an action item and a grant request recommended for approval by the Gunnison Basin Roundtable. The applicant and grantee is Diane Martin for the project titled Tournay Highline Diversion Improvement. The purpose of this application is to assist a collaborative effort between the Green Mesa Ranch and Trout Unlimited to reconstruct the Tournay Highline diversion structure. The project is located on Quartz Creek, approximately 12 miles east of the city of Gunnison. Green Mesa Ranch is a 330-acre ranch owned by John Leverett. Owners produce grass, hay, and pastured livestock on the irrigated land. The Tournay Highline Ditch is owned by Green Mesa Ranch and delivers water for irrigation of 224 acres of grass, hay, meadow, and pasture land. The existing Tournay Highline diversion is difficult and dangerous to operate, is a barrier to trout, and is contributing to channel instability through the segment of Quartz Creek. This project will replace the existing structure with a new structure which will improve ditch operations, operator safety, channel stability, and fish passage. Project objectives are to improve access and control of pre-compact water rights, improve safety of personnel operating the diversion, reduce the in-channel disturbance caused by diversion maintenance, reduce risk of diversion failure during high flow periods, improve trout passage for spawning and mitigation and migration, improve channel stability and in-stream habitat, improve wintering trout habitat with pooling below the diversion. No issues or additional needs have been identified. The applicant is providing a cash and in-kind match of $25,750, and all matching requirements have been satisfied. If approved, I will be CWCB's project manager. The applicant requests $15,000 from the Gunnison Basin account, and staff recommends approval. Diane Martin, a ranch partner, and Jesse Cruthup, Trout Unlimited's Upper Gunnison project specialists, are both in attendance today, and we're all available to take questions or address any concerns you may have. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Craig. Any questions for Craig? Diane or Jesse, would you like to address the board? And if you'd please state your name and who you're with.
Greg and Jesse for helping us come up with a design that will help the fish habitat as well as just the washout on the diversion, and also not having to get in that ditch with 5 feet of water and try to get the dam stuffed. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for making the trip. Thank you for bringing this to us. On this, Director McLeod.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will note that a portion of the match is indicated as pending from the Upper Gunnison District. I will let you know that the Grants Committee of the Upper Gunnison Board has recommended approval of that grant. The board will vote on it on Monday, and typically the board follows the recommendation of the committee. So I think the funding is in good shape for this project, and I would move that we approve the staff recommendation on agenda item 25C for the Tornay Highline diversion improvement.
Right. It's been moved by Director McLeod, seconded by Director Dutton, that we approve staff recommendation on agenda item 25C. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Craig?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is agenda item 25D, is an action item and a grant request recommended for approval by the Gunnison Basin Roundtable. The applicant and grantee is Trout Unlimited for the project titled Tomichi Water Conservation Project. The purpose of this application is to assist Trout Unlimited and other stakeholders develop a program that will demonstrate how temporary and coordinated split-season agricultural water conservation can provide the flexibility necessary to sustain robust agriculture and healthy streams in the Upper Gunnison Basin. The primary focus of this proposal will be to reduce local shortages during drought years. The secondary goal is to provide a conservation program template that will be useful in the future. This effort will be accomplished by following the following tasks as indicated in the statement of work. Implement voluntary conservation program, estimate and verify reduce consumptive use and impacts, secure water rights protection, evaluate opportunities to bank conserved water in the Aspinall unit. This 3-year water conservation program will involve regional coordination to improve environmental and recreational flows through the Tomichi State Wildlife Area, as well as to reduce agricultural shortages below the state wildlife area. The program will also provide an example of how temporary, voluntary, and compensated reduction of consumptive use can be used to reduce local water shortages during drought years and protect water users from increasing water demands on the Colorado River. The Lower Tomichi Creek region was chosen as a demonstration site because existing relationships and past coordination will provide a project that is ready for implementation. The applicant and third parties are providing a cash and in-kind match of $184,925, and all matching requirements have been satisfied. No issues or additional needs have been identified. If approved, I will be CWCB's project manager. I'd like to note on the summary sheet, the first page, under about a third of the way down, the matching funds, that should read $184,925, and the percentage should be 536%. The applicant requests $34,500 from the Gunnison Basin account, and staff recommends approval. Jesse Crowthup, Trout Unlimited's Upper Gunnison project specialist, is in attendance today, and we're both available to take questions or address any concerns you may have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
From the directors here. We do have a comment, I think, from Director Hawkins, or a question. So, Director Hawkins.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted
All right. Thank you, Director Hawkins.
Thank you.
Jesse, would you like to address the board? And welcome. And if you state your name and who you're with.
I'm Jesse Crewthop with Trout Unlimited. I don't have much to add in addition to what Craig already presented, but just wanted to say thank you for the consideration and happy to field any questions you have.
Questions for Jesse? Are you part of the Kruthopt family we heard about yesterday on the
That's
Coach
his
Ditch?
dad.
That's his
Greg
dad?
is his dad.
Okay.
Crew thought. That's right.
Well, thanks for coming. Thanks for making the trip. All right. Director McLeod.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for asking the question, so I wouldn't have to make another disclosure about the family relationships in the Gunnison Basin.
The middle school principal.
Middle school principal is Jesse's dad, yeah. And by the way, also listed on the contributions is money from the Upper Gunnison District, and the Grants Committee again did recommend approval of this portion of the grant match. So that's listed as pending on the materials we received. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I would like to move that we approve the staff recommendation for agenda item 25D for the Tamichi Water Conservation Project.
Been moved by Director McLeod, second by Director Gallagher, that we approve agenda item, staff recommendation on agenda item 25D. Are there any questions, any additional discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is agenda item.
Excuse me just a minute. Director Wattenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we move into agenda item number E, I have a small financial interest in one of these projects, so I need to recuse myself from going any further. I can probably answer any questions, but I can't go any further than that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Director Wattenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is agenda item 25E, is an action item and a grant request recommended for approval by the North Platte Basin Roundtable. The applicant and grantee is the Owl Mountain Partnership for the project titled Jackson County Water Structure Improvement Project. The purpose of this application is to assist the Owl Mountain Partnership replace 3 existing but deteriorating head gates, install a fish-friendly diversion, install a new measuring device, and line an existing section of ditch. These improvements will be constructed on the old SC, Briggs, Bond, Teller, and Darcy ditches with the following objectives: to improve safety, efficiency, safely, effectively, and efficiently control and regulate irrigation water, to reduce irrigation water-induced erosion and sediment movement, to improve irrigation water management, to continue to create irrigation-induced wetlands and riparian areas for wildlife habitat, to provide possible recreational opportunities. Staff will work cooperatively with the applicant to obtain any outstanding letters of matching commitment. Otherwise, no issues or additional needs have been identified. The applicant and third parties are providing a cash and in-kind match of $116,800, and all matching requirements have been satisfied. If approved, I will be CWCB's project manager. The applicant requests $116,300 from the North Platte Basin account, and staff recommends approval. Unfortunately, the applicants were unable to attend today's meeting, but I will try to field your questions to the best of my ability. Thank you.
All right. Do we have any questions? Director Wells.
I don't have a question, but if there are no questions, I would move staff recommendation for item 25E.
Second. Then moved by Director Wells, second by Director Gallagher, that we approve staff recommendation on item 25E. Further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposing, same sign. Motion carries, and it may be noted that Director Wattenberg abstained from the vote. All right, Greg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is agenda item 25F, is an action item and a grant request recommended for approval by the South Platte Basin Roundtable. The applicant and grantee is the St. Vrain and Left Hand Water Conservancy District for the project titled St. Vrain and Left Hand Water Stream Management Plan. The purpose of this application is to assist the The purpose of this application is to assist the district develop a stream management plan. The overall goal of the stream management plan is to build upon extensive studies that have already taken place in the basin to collaboratively identify projects and management strategies that will transition stakeholders from flood recovery to stream health projects that improve environmental conditions in the river, while also meeting water users' current and future needs that are aligned with private property rights and the prior appropriation system. The St. Vrain Creek watershed is critical to maintaining the health, biodiversity, character, and economy of the communities within the region, including Lyons and Longmont. The creek is home to a diverse population of native fish, receive Colorado River Transmountain water, hosts one of the country's largest outdoor games, has its headwaters in the Rocky Mountain National Park and the Indian Peaks Wilderness, and its confluence in the county that is the largest agricultural producing economy in Colorado. With such a wide range of issues and an intense focus of the study, the St. Vrain poses an excellent opportunity to balance the river's health with water users' needs through completion of a stream management plan. No issues or additional needs have been identified. The applicant and third parties are providing a cash and in-kind match of $249,500, and all matching requirements have been satisfied. If approved, Chris Sturm will be CWCB's project manager. The applicant requests $50,000 from the South Platte Basin account, and staff recommends approval. Sean Cronin, Executive Director of the St. Vrain and Left Hand Water Conservancy District, is in attendance, and we're both available to take questions or address any concerns you may have. Thank you.
Any questions for Craig? Director Dutton.
Craig, thank you for your summary. In the sheet, it notes that all of the eligibility requirements and criteria have been checked. This and many of the other applications have funding from other CWCB grant programs, and this one, it looks like the Colorado Watershed Restoration grant funding is also used. Did you check the matching requirements for those programs as well?
I have to admit a bit of ignorance on those matching requirements because I'm not directly involved in those, but I'm sure that staff has, you can rest assured that they have made sure that those matching requirements have been met for the other grant programs.
Okay.
I believe otherwise they would have either gone back to the applicant to have them modify their application before it ever got to the board.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we are, so if that one says that it can't be a certain percent higher of all CWCB funds or whatever, that we're being true to all of the different criteria. And it sounds like you've been looking at that. So thank you.
The staff in general has. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Cronin, Sean Cronin, just fresh out of mourning after the New England Patriots got beat by the Philadelphia Eagles.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yes.
Sean Cronin, Executive Director of St. Vrain Left Hand Water Conservancy District, and Commissioner Dutton, we have fully matched on the other grant, and this board approved it 2 months ago on the $150,000 request for the stream management plan. And I reported to you then that I thought the stream management plan grant program was really the crux of Colorado's water plan. I'm here today to tell you that's wrong. It's the Water Supply Reserve Fund grant program that's really the crux of the Colorado's water plan. So this is a $50,000 grant request that folds all in together for a $300,000 grant program. In seriousness, tomorrow we're having our annual water symposium that we host each year, and stream management plan is the focus. And we have an increase of about 20% in attendance based on, I believe, this topic, which I stand by my comment from 2 months ago, is really what Colorado's water plan was looking at, is how do we manage all the multiple needs in a basin, and how do we sustain economies and continue to improve upon a great agricultural economy. So we really feel like it's an exciting time locally in the basin, and we're really thankful for your granting of dollars to help us be able to do that.
Thanks, Sean. That's good. I just wanted to say that, they've done a lot of work here, so it's good work. And so I'm proud to be part of the basin where you guys are working through flood recovery and then looking at stream management plan in the wake of that. And so it's a good job that you guys are doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Director Wells.
Before I move staff recommendation, I do have a question. The term outdoor game is not familiar to me unless it's hunting. So could you tell me what the country's largest outdoor game is?
Yes, it's hosted in Lyons. I think it's been going for over 10 years now. It includes mountain biking, whitewater kayaking, and I believe they have what's called the Burning Can Festival, which is hosted by Oscar Blues and involves significant volumes of beer, and all the proceeds from that games from folks that come in and spend money at local businesses, as well as the fees that they charge, all goes towards the Town of Lyons Parks and Recreation Department.
Okay, well, beer is water-based, so, okay. So without any other questions, I would move staff recommendation for item 25F.
Moved by Director Wells, second by Director. Sorry, it's been moved by Director Wells, second by Director Goebel, that we approve staff recommendation on item 25F. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Continue on, Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is agenda item 25G. It is an action item and a grant request recommended for approval by the South Platte Basin Roundtable. The applicant and grantee is the Lost Creek Groundwater Management District for the project titled Lost Creek Designated Basin Instrumentation Project. The purpose of this application is to assist the Lost Creek Groundwater Management District install 30 deep sensing transducers in the Lost Creek Designated Basin. This array will measure water depths throughout the upper Lost Creek Designated Basin and report results directly to the State of Colorado Division of Water Resources HydroBase database. Funding will be used to procure, install, and connect the array to HydroBase. Initial installations will be conducted by Dynotech and will serve to train district personnel to complete the project. Project objectives include to provide a baseline empirical data on actual water levels in the Lost Creek alluvial system. The data will support attainment of the following secondary objectives: provide accurate and substantive data to support Department of Water Resources, CWCB, and the district's decisions on appropriations, well applications, and validate groundwater modeling. It will characterize the Lost Creek system prior to establishment of an aquifer storage and recovery projects to be able to discern effects of infiltration methods, storage capacity, resident times, and export of resources from the system. No issues or additional needs have been identified. The applicant is providing a cash match of $25,000 and all matching requirements have been satisfied. If approved, I will be CWCB's project manager. The applicant requests $25,000 from the South Platte Basin account and $43,000 from the statewide account, and staff recommends approval. Tom Souter, General Manager of the Lost Creek Groundwater Management District, and Todd Denning, Board Member of the district, are both in attendance today, and we're available to take questions or just any concerns you may have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Craig. Any questions for Craig? Tom or Todd, would you like to address the board?
Yes, I'm Todd Denning from the Lost Creek Groundwater Management District, and I would like to thank Craig for his guidance in getting us started on this. This is a first project for us, but one that's very desperately needed because we typically work with no data, anecdotal data, or conflicting data, so we're trying to resolve that problem. And I'd like to thank you for your consideration. Everything else that Craig said pretty much defines what is in our application and why we're doing it. So with brevity being the soul of wit, I will end it right there. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Any questions for Todd? Tom, would you like to address the board? Okay, thanks. Okay, thanks for coming, though. We appreciate it. Director Wells.
There are no questions. I'd like to move staff recommendation for item 25G.
Been moved by Director Wells, seconded by Director Gallagher, that we approve staff recommendation on item 25G. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 25H.
Chair, this is agenda item 25H. It is an action item and a grant request recommended for approval by the South Platte Basin Roundtable. The applicant and grantee is Ducks Unlimited for the project titled Bureau of Reclamation Narrows Tract, Shallow Water Wetland Enhancements and Recharge Development. The purpose of this application is to assist Ducks Unlimited in partnership with the Bureau of Reclamation and local water providers to enhance existing shallow water wetlands and develop a complex of recharge ponds on 3 BOR properties commonly referred to as the Narrows Tracts. In 2015, the CWCB funded the Phase 1 feasibility study of these properties, which concluded to staff satisfaction in September 2017, and this laid the groundwork for the project implementation, which is Phase 2. Through this grant proposal and DU support, Ducks Unlimited is proposing to develop 3 multi-purpose projects on the Narrows property to improve public recreation opportunities, develop new agricultural water supplies, and provide additional wildlife habitat along the South Platte River. Specifically, funding will be utilized to complete the final engineering drawings and solicit competitive construction bids, construct the 3 properties as outlined in the scope of work. Activities include the installation of 15,000 linear feet of 24-inch diameter pipeline, 15 inline water control structures, and approximately 20,000 cubic yards of earthwork. It will also manage all construction activities and provide interim progress reports and a final report to CWCB upon completion. No issues or additional needs have been identified. The applicant is providing a cash match of $657,932, and all matching requirements have been satisfied. If approved, I will be CWCB's project manager. The applicant requests $50,000 from the South Platte Basin account and $450,000 from a statewide account, and staff recommends approval. Jason Raudebush, water resource specialist from Ducks Unlimited, is in attendance today, and we're both available to take questions or address any concerns you may have. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for Craig? Director Wells.
I'm going to display my ignorance here. What Bureau of Reclamation facility is there?
Yeah,
I know, but the Narrows project never happened, right?
The Bureau of Reclamation bought some land in there to do the Narrows project. So this land
They still have the land. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Jason, would you like to address the board? Please state your name and who you're with.
I'm Jason Raudebush with Ducks Unlimited. Thank you for considering this application. I know that the ask is substantial, and you all probably saw it at first, your eyes may have bulged a little bit. But I just want to assure you that this is a great project to fund. This is the largest undertaking in the South Platte that Ducks Unlimited has taken on over the past 15 years, both in terms of partnerships, where we have the Bureau of Reclamation, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, local agricultural producers, and the Bijou Irrigation District, and in terms of size, with over 2,000 acres of publicly accessible land that we're looking to enhance. So I just want to thank you for your consideration.
All right. Thanks, Jason. Any other questions for Jason? Director Wells.
There are no other questions. I will move staff recommendation for item 25H.
Been moved by Director Wells, second by Director Dutton, that we approve staff recommendation on item 25H. Is there any further discussion? I would just like to say that Ducks Unlimited does a lot of work on the South Platte Basin, especially in the lower river, and they do a good job of developing a lot of habitat in our area for waterfowl. So it's a good, and they work well with the agriculture community. So they're good partners. So any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes my portion of this presentation, and Ben will continue with 25I through M.
All right, Mr. Wade. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, CWCB board. I'll be presenting agenda items 25I through M, all from the Arkansas Basin. These have all been approved by the Arkansas Basin Roundtable, and if approved, much to the chagrin of the applicants, I'll be their project manager. I'm just teasing. Agenda item 25I, the applicant for this one is Lakeside Estates Preserve Homeowners Association, Incorporated. Project is titled Ice Lake Preservation and Augmentation Project. They're asking for $2,891 from the Arkansas Basin account, $26,019 from the statewide account, for a total of $28,910. There's their total grant request. They've met all the match requirements. The objectives of this project is to preserve critical habitat for migrating birds and mammals, as well as the historical, cultural values associated with Ice Lake. They'll be installing equipment needed to properly administer water rights, as well as increased storage for fully consumable water to be utilized during drought years like this one. Promote integrated water management through a partnership with local water conservancy district. With me in attendance today is Lindsay Mueller, who is the treasurer for Lakeside Estates Preserves HOA, as well as Terry Skinga, the district manager for the Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District, who is a partner on this project, and Chelsea Nutter, who is the project manager. This application is consistent with the objectives set forth in the Water Plan Objective F, watershed health, environmental, and recreational economic values, as well as protecting healthy environments. The enhancement and protection of Ice Lake would support over 80 bird species and other native mammals. As for the rest of the meat of the project, for any other questions you guys would have, I would invite Lindsay to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions for Ben? All right. Lindsay or Terry or Chelsea, any of you or all of you, just state your name and who you're with. And
Hi, I'm Lindsay Mueller from Lakeside Estates Preserve Homeowners Association. Sorry, it's a mouthful. Just want to thank you for consideration of our project. We feel it's important because of the wetland habitat for local and migratory birds, but also for the unique role that Ice Lake plays in the history of Buena Vista in the lettuce industry. I'd also like to thank Mr. Wade and Terry and Chelsea for their cooperation and support as we've been working for years to try to preserve this habitat.
all right, thank you very much. And thanks for coming. So any questions for Lindsay? Director Goebel.
Chairman, if there are no further questions, I move to approve staff recommendation on agenda item 25I.
Then moved by Director Goebel, seconded by Director McLeod, that we approve staff recommendation on item 25I. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Right, Ben?
Thank you. Agenda item 25J is a grant request from Parkville Water District. Their project is titled Mountain Lake Emergency Spillway Rebuild. They're requesting $6,681 from the Arkansas Basin account. From the statewide account, they're requesting $66,814. Their total grant request $73,495. They meet the match requirements. The objectives of this project is to rebuild and repair the existing spillway, to construct the control wall, riprap end wall, and discharge channel, develop erosion control and environmental rehab and revegetation, eliminate the classification the dam has as significant hazard, and provide protection for Lake County residents, secure storage for domestic and irrigation water resources in Lake County. And just to make a quick mention on that significant hazard, they got that classification because there's a significant population within that flood path of that reservoir. This reservoir holds 122 acre feet of water, which is approximately 40% of the raw water storage for the city of Leadville and other areas of Lake County. This project would meet some of the objectives in the Colorado Water Plan, especially storage and municipal supply gap. A loss of the storage in this lake would result or would increase the municipal supply gap. And this also meets a project identified within the Arkansas Basin Implementation Plan. With me today from Parkville Water District is Greg Teeter, who is their general manager, and Rijo Marijic, and I'm so sorry for butchering your name. I warned him I would, though. He is a Parkville Water District board member, and they'll be available for questions or comments if you have any.
Any questions for Ben? So Greg or Rijo, if you'd state your name and who you're with.
Well, I'm Greg Teeter, manager at Parkville Water District in Leadville. We supply drinking water to the town of Leadville. I want to thank the board for consideration of this project and also for Ben's help and Chelsea's help on putting this together. It'll help us maintain our storage level and avoid level restrictions on that dam.
Thank you. Any questions for Greg? Rejo or anybody else want to? Okay. All right. Well, thanks for coming. So, Director Goebel.
Thanks to both of you for coming up. Appreciate it. If there are no further questions, I move to approve staff recommendation on agenda item 25J.
Been moved by Director Goebel, seconded by Director Gallagher to approve staff recommendation on item 25J. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Ben, continue on.
This is agenda item 25K. The applicant is Huerfano County Water Conservancy District. Project name is Cacharis Collaborative Storage Study, Geotechnical Investigation. They're requesting $8,480 from the Arkansas Basin account, $84,797 from the statewide account, for a total of $93,277. The goal of this project is to evaluate the suitability of 5 potential dam sites for construction of a reservoir that will provide collaborative storage in the Cacharis River Basin. The 5 sites that were selected were based on the results of the previous phase of this project, which was another water supply reserve funded grant, and it was completed back in June of last year. So this investigation will focus on the subsurface geology at each of the proposed sites and the suitability based on factors such as the foundation stability and potential seepage concerns. They'll do analysis of subsurface soil samples and collect those from the test pits excavated at each of the sites, and that'll be analyzed to determine the geotechnical properties important in the dam foundation. This project is consistent with the goals that are in the water plan. Storage, promote additional storage and infrastructure. And as you can see on the funding source, part of the water activity sheet, this is a multi-partner project. This project the applicant has met all the matching requirements. With us today in the audience is Scott King, who is the Huerfano County Water Conservancy District President, and we're both available for any questions that the board may have.
Questions for Ben? Scott, would you like to come up and address the board? Welcome and thanks for coming. State your name and who you're with.
Scott King, I'm the president of the Huerfano County Water Conservancy District. First of all, let me thank the board for all of the past support. We've had several projects in front of you, and you haven't said no yet. So, as Ben said, this is the second part of our storage study, the geotech, and we are very proud that we have so many monetary contributors. So, any consideration would be fine. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions for Scott? All right, Director Goebel.
Thanks, Scott, for making the trip. Yeah, I think I counted 8 different contributors, so that's a good thing. If there's no further questions, I move to approve staff recommendation on agenda item 25K.
It's been moved by Director Goebel, second by Director Wattenberg to approve staff recommendation on item 25K. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Continue on, Ben.
25L, applicant is Town of Poncha Springs. Project name, Poncha Springs Water Infrastructure Improvement Project for some well development. And they're asking $6,000 from the Arkansas Basin account, $58,500 from the statewide account for a grand total of $64,500. The objectives of this project is to improve and enlarge Poncha Springs water infrastructure to meet their current demands for domestic use as well as fire suppression. Also develop an integrated water management partnerships to better utilize and manage water supplies in the Upper Arkansas Valley. Since the first water system went online in 1983 for the town of Poncha Springs, our population has tripled. And currently they're just facing difficulties just supplying sufficient demand and sustaining fire suppression for the community. Just over the past several years, they've seen their wells barely been able to keep storage above that minimum fire flow levels required. And if one of those wells were to go down, they don't have any faith that they'd be able to meet the demand. So this grant would help them assist with the implementation of 2 high-capacity wells that would provide an additional 30 acre-feet to the town's current water supply, and that will double the current distribution capacity. This meets the objective and the water plan objective A, supply demand gap. Obviously, if they didn't do this, that'd be an undesirable outcome and contribute to the gap down there. With us today is Brian Berger, he wears many hats for the town of Poncha Springs. He's our administration officer, treasurer, and clerk. Also, Terry and Chelsea are here from the Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District, who are also partners on this project, and they'll be available to answer any questions the board may have.
All right, thanks. Any questions for Ben? Ben, the only thing I when I was reading through it, I didn't see, is there an augmentation plan for this? I didn't see any reference to water rights. So you're drilling 2 new wells, and maybe Brian, you could address that, but go ahead and state your name and who you're with.
Brian Berger with Town of Poncha Springs. If you got planner, backhoe operator, snowplower. As far as the augmentation goes, this one, the location of the wells is actually different than the other ones. All of our water rights are associated with the south stem of the Arkansas River. We've come to an agreement with the Upper Ark District for the augmentation of these wells. The engineering has been done and approved by Division 2, and actually have one of the well permits in hand. So that has been taken care of. As far as other comments, this is by far the biggest project Town of Poncha Springs has taken on, and definitely one of the most critical. As he said, during peak demand periods, all wells run continuously for multiple days straight. No opportunity for a uh-oh or a whoops. So at its completion, we'll have redundancies established throughout the system, and I'll sleep a little better at night. So.
All right, thanks, Brian. Any questions for Brian? You probably better get back to work. It sounds like you're new. Director Goebel.
Thanks, Brian, for making the trip, and thanks, Terry and Chelsea, for coming up. If there's no further questions, I move to approve staff recommendation on agenda item 25L.
Been moved by Director Goebel, second by Director Dutton, that we approve staff recommendation on agenda item 25L. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Ben?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My last agenda item is 25M. Applicant is Town of Walsh. Their project title or activity name is Municipal Water Well Feasibility and Evaluation. They're asking $1,000 from the Arkansas River Basin account. From the statewide account, they're requesting $6,500 for a total grant request of $7,500. They do meet all the match requirements, and the objectives of this particular project is to evaluate the viability of the single municipal water supply well, and to evaluate the potential of other wells in the vicinity as alternative or supplemental sources, refurbishing and testing the school well pump within the town city limits as a municipal supply well, and also just collect data on understanding the impact of groundwater depletions to the Ogallala Aquifer in Baca County. So over the past year, they've been relying on a single well for their town's water supply. And of course, you can imagine that's dropped significantly, which increases the challenge. of providing safe and reliable water for their community, and has created other service challenges for the utility. So with grant funds, they will engage a third-party vendor to evaluate the condition of the current wells, as well as evaluate nearby irrigation wells that could potentially be converted for municipal use. I mentioned collecting data. There's a U.S. Geological Survey, and they'll be collecting data that will be establishing the baseline for that study, for this Ogallala Aquifer study. This is, again, meeting the objective of the supply-demand gap within the Colorado water plan, using methods that avoid some of the undesirable outcomes of the supply-demand gap. This also meets objectives within the Arkansas Basin Implementation Plan. With us today, unfortunately, no one from the town was able to make it, but we do have Gary Barber in attendance this morning, and he is the Arkansas Basin Implementation Coordinator. So I'd invite him to answer any questions. We'll be available if anybody has any questions, comments.
Any questions for Ben? Gary, state your name and who you're with.
Gary Barber, Arkansas Basin Implementation Plan Coordinator. The folks from the town of Walsh really appreciate your support of this grant. We're trying to, one of our basin plan objectives is to deal with groundwater depletions. This is one of the areas we haven't gotten a lot of data on. So they've agreed to work with USGS to start creating a baseline on the Ogallala, and more importantly, to try to get some redundancy and backup in their system. So I would expect we would be back at some point after this first evaluation was done. A couple of local folks have offered wells that could be donated to the town, and that'll be a part of the evaluation to see what the relative cost of that would be and the productivity. And I'll also tell you that Deputy Division Engineer Bill Tyner has connected these folks with his staff, talk about if you're going to look at a conversion, what that entails. And so folks from town of Walsh are very appreciative. Thanks.
Thanks, Gary. Any questions for Gary? Or? Director Goebel.
Chairman, thanks for making the trip up, Gary. Very important project. So if there's no further questions, I move to approve staff recommendation on agenda item 25M.
Been moved by Director Goebel, seconded by Director McLeod to approve staff recommendation on item 25M. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks, Ben. Good job. Now we have Megan.
Chairman. For the record, I'm Megan Holcomb, CWCB staff in the Water Supply Planning section. I'll be presenting agenda items 25N through double D to try and get us through the remaining 2/3 of WSRF grants today. In the interest of time and efficiency, I've provided a snapshot of each request on each slide, and we'll provide just a short verbal synopsis of each project. So also, if you have any questions or comments on each sub-item, please feel free to do so before the vote, as I'm not going to explicitly ask each item. And lastly, there's a delightful prize at the end if we can make it through the entire alphabet, +4. Let's see if I can figure out this guy. Maybe. Oh, look, I'm struggling. I got it. All right, here we go. So for the first three, these are all requests from the Colorado Basin Roundtable. Agenda item 25N is a request for $75,000 from the Colorado Basin account to help the applicant, the Eagle River Watershed Council, in the development of the Eagle River Integrated Water Management Plan. The plan will develop proactive water management recommendations that anticipate changes to local hydrology due to population growth and increasing demand in Eagle County, as well as climate change and projects related to the Eagle River MOU. The plan will be developed through a stakeholder process with many local entities, state and federal agencies, recreational users, and the Eagle River MOU partners. The plan will integrate both consumptive and non-consumptive water uses to ensure that all existing and future uses are considered. This project previously received $181,445 from the CWCB's Watershed Restoration Grant Fund. Aside from securing pending funds, no additional needs have been identified, and staff recommends approval.
Questions for Megan? Is
There
there
is not,
anybody?
no.
Okay. Director George.
No one apparently was able to come from the applicant. So if you have questions, I could try.
Happy to try as well.
And my trying would be to turn it back to Megan. So ask away. It's fine. I move we adopt staff recommendation on agenda item 25N.
Been moved by Director George, seconded by Director Wattenberg to move staff recommendation on agenda item 25N. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Megan.
I might add that most of my basins are quite far away, so I will let you know if there's someone here for representing. Let's see. Agenda item 25O is a request for $103,800 from the Colorado Basin account to help the applicant, the Middle Colorado Watershed Council, in the development of the Middle Colorado Watershed Council Integrated Water Management Plan. The plan will improve security for all water uses in the planning area by understanding and protecting existing uses, meeting shortages, and maintaining healthy riverine ecosystems in the face of increased future demand and climate uncertainty. WSRF funds will be used to conduct technical assessments, develop a hydrology model, and support a robust stakeholder engagement process that will help inform the investigation of, selection, and prioritization of projects, processes, and management actions that further the long-term project objective. The project previously received $207,600 from the Watershed Restoration Grant Fund. Aside from securing pending funds, no additional needs have been identified, and staff recommends approval.
Are there any questions for Megan? Director George.
Hearing no questions, I would move we adopt staff recommendation on agenda item 25-0. Oh.
That was loud.
It's been moved by Director George, seconded by Director Dutton to approve staff recommendation on agenda item 25O. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Continue, Megan.
Agenda item 25P is a request for $20,700 from the Colorado Basin account to help the applicant, the town of Carbondale, in the project titled Crystal River Restoration and Weaver Ditch Efficiency Project. The funds will help project partners in the restoration and enhancement of a 1/2 mile, 18-acre reach of the Crystal River as it flows through the town of Carbondale, as well as improvements to the efficiency of the town-owned Weaver Ditch headgate and diversion. The funds will contribute to the planning, design, and permitting for the project. This project previously received $100,000 from the Watershed Restoration Grant Fund, and no additional needs have been identified. Staff recommends approval.
Any questions for Megan or Russ on this one? All right.
Hearing no questions, I would move we adopt staff recommendation of approval of agenda item 25P.
Then moved by Director George, seconded by Director Gallagher, that we approve staff recommendation on item 25P. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Oh, Director Wells.
On this next item, Denver Water is a grant recipient, so I will recuse myself from voting or participation in this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Wells. Megan.
Agenda item 25Q is a request for $30,000 from the Metro account and $97,500 from the statewide account for a total request of $127,500 to fund the project titled Regional Investigation of Salinity Management Options. The study aims to address water quality issues, including salinity management alternatives. The water delivery agreement between Aurora Water, Denver Water, and the WISE Authority addresses the need for this study for the partners to utilize a treated but unblended water supply from Aurora Water's Prairie Water System down to Denver Water and the Authority through the WISE Authority distribution system. This investigation is scheduled to start mid-June of 2018 and will be completed by June of 2019. No additional needs have been identified and staff recommends approval.
Are there any questions for?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If there are no questions for Megan, I would move that we approve the staff recommendation for agenda item 25Q for the regional investigation of salinity management options.
Second, Mr. Chair.
And moved by Director McLeod, second by Director Wattenberg to approve staff recommendation on item 25Q. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and let it be noted that Director Wells abstained from voting.
Agenda item 25R is a request for $10,000 from the Metro account and $10,000 from the statewide account for a total request of $20,000. This project will fund the development of a free online water information disclosure tool that uses public data aggregation. The tool links water supplier information with property buyers and real estate multiple listing services to increase property buyer awareness of address-specific conservation plans, water planning, and municipal water suppliers. The overall goal of this project is to expand the knowledge and water ethic of urban and suburban water consumers and realtors by engaging them early in the home buying process. This project previously received $60,000 from the CWCB's Water Plan Grant Fund, the Conservation and Land Use bucket. No additional needs have been identified and staff recommends approval.
Any questions for Megan? Director Wells?
If there are no further questions, I would move staff recommendation for item 25R.
Been moved by Director Wells, seconded by Director Gallagher, that we approve staff recommendation on item 25R. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Megan.
Agenda item 25S is a request for $25,000 from the Metro account to fund the project SWIFT 2 and bring together partners from different agencies and disciplines to identify, evaluate, and create synergies around existing and proposed infrastructure in the urban South Platte watershed. Entities in the proposed study area are strategically situated to benefit from shared or coordinated infrastructure, increased reuse opportunities, efficiencies between interrelated systems, and scenarios that minimize the net cost to collective water and wastewater ratepayers. Partner meetings began in 2017 and will continue monthly in 2018. Ultimately, if this project is successful, it will build toward a more thorough evaluation of one or more opportunities, and the partners may pursue a CWCB water plan grant in the fall. One correction I have on the water activity summary sheet is Littleton Englewood Wastewater was listed as both the applicant and the grantee, but the grantee is actually Corello Engineers, who will serve as both the project coordinator and fiscal agent as identified in the scope in the rest of the application. Dan DeLauder from Littleton Englewood Wastewater Treatment Plant is in attendance today and available to take questions on this project. If there are no questions, no additional needs have been identified and staff recommends approval. Dan, would you like to address the board?
Dan, come on up. State your name and who you're with.
Hi, Dan DeLauder with the Littleton Englewood Wastewater Treatment Plant. I wanted to just first acknowledge the other project partners on this project. It's our facility, but also Denver Water, South Metro Water Supply Authority, Aurora Water, and Roxborough Water and Sanitation District. And they're all devoting a lot of time and resources to the project. And just what's unique about this project is that it brings together both major water providers and wastewater providers in the South Platte Basin. And I think the discussions about the corrosion control issue earlier, it really highlights the need for more of this cooperation between water supply and water quality. Beyond that, just thanks to Megan and the Metro Roundtable for their support, and thanks to the board for your consideration.
All right, thanks, Dan. Any questions for Dan? Director Wells.
There are no questions. I'd like to move staff recommendation for item 25S.
It's been moved by Director Wells, seconded by Director Gallagher to approve staff recommendation on agenda item 25S. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Megan.
All right, the next 5 requests are from the Rio Grande Basin Roundtable. Agenda item 25T is a request for $18,000 from the Rio Grande Basin account and $157,000 from the statewide account for a total request of $175,000 to contribute to the purchase of a conservation easement on the Paulson Ranch. This grant is facilitated by the Rio Grande Headwaters Land Trust. The conservation easement will limit development and tie significant senior water rights to the land while maintaining future flexibility for other uses that accomplish conservation goals. The trust will use the requested state and basin funds to provide matching funds toward the purchase of a conservation easement on 180 acres of a working ranch in an important corridor of conserved lands. Aside from securing these pending funds, no additional needs have been identified and staff recommends approval.
Questions for Megan? All right. Director Dutton.
I wanted to share a message from Nancy Butler, who is the executive director of the Rio Grande Headwaters Land Trust. As many of you may know, Nancy has been battling cancer for many years, and she had to get some chemotherapy today. So she wasn't able to make it. She sends her regards, and she, if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to share a message, what she wanted to share with the board.
Absolutely.
Okay, she said, I am sorry I'm not able to make it to the meeting today where you and the other board members of the Colorado Water Conservation Board are considering the Rio Grande Headwater Land Trust proposal to fund a conservation easement on the Paulson Ranch in the San Luis Valley. As always, we sincerely appreciate this opportunity to apply for funding as well as the grants we have received from the CWCB in the past. The Paulson Ranch Conservation Easement builds upon much of the work you have already invested in along the Rio Grande corridor. This project has numerous community benefits for Colorado and the Rio Grande, including preserving agriculture, maintaining wetlands and riparian areas, and protecting wildlife habitat. It will tie the water rights to the land, which will help manage water use in a way that sustains the agriculture economy throughout the basin. As a native Coloradan, I am really proud of the work that you and other Colorado leaders have done towards being thoughtful about and investing in our water, which pays off in community dividends throughout the state. Thank you for all you guys do.
Very nice.
Yes. So thanks for indulging me so I could share Nancy's message. And if there are no other questions for Megan, I would move staff recommendation.
It's been moved by Director Dutton, second by Director Wells, that we approve staff recommendation on item 25T. All those, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Agenda item 25U is a request for $54,692 from the Rio Grande Basin account and $332,588 from the statewide account for a total request of $387,280 to fund a suite of 4 Conejos diversion projects. The projects address the Richfield Canal's company's difficulty in obtaining its water right when in priority and extends the Conejos Water Conservancy District's growing network of electronic gauging stations and automated control gates. The district's network will be extended to the Valdez 6 and 10 diversions and the Salazar 8 and 12 diversions, with WSRF funds used to replace or install new diversion and sluice structures with the addition of automated control gates to each system. The Conejos Water Conservancy District's representative in attendance is Nicole Langley, Grants and Funding Coordinator, who is available to take questions on this project. If there are no questions, staff recommends approval. Nicole, would you like to address the board?
Any questions for Megan? Nicole, if you would state your name and who you're with. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm Nicole Langley, and yes, I have been since 2006 a funding coordinator for many, many proposals on the Rio Grande Basin. However, I am here as part of the Conejos Water Conservancy District. And I also, now that we have run out of money, I finally made it as a member of the Rio Grande Basin Roundtable. So anyway, we are so proud of our basin and the fact that we have Vice Chair Dutton here and our wonderful Peppo, awesome Judy, and so many things that we do in the Rio Grande Basin. I'm sorry, but I just have to brag. We're awesome. And we're just, anyway, excuse me if I digress. This particular project started in about 2006 with this, what we began calling the Conejos Whole River System. And yes, it is the whole river system because we also have that other river, you know, the Rio Grande. But the whole river system takes this tremendous collaboration between farmers, ranchers, landowners, water users, sitting down, arguing and working together to bring these funds together because they individually cannot step up. They cannot qualify or meet the criteria as applicants. So therefore, CWCD has taken this role year after year. And the map there that shows the line of the border, these are the poorest farmers in Colorado who are the last bastion of Colorado hanging on to that water before it goes away forever. So thank you so much for funding this. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Nicole. Any questions for Nicole or Megan? All right. Director Dutton.
Thanks, Nicole and Megan. There you have it. You really made it in the Rio Grande when you're on the roundtable. I would move staff recommendation on item 25U.
Moved by Director Dutton, second by Director Goebel, that we approve staff recommendation on item 25U. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Continue on, Megan. Making our way through the alphabet.
Agenda item 25V is a request for $65,000 from the Rio Grande Basin account to assist Trout Unlimited with maintenance issues at 2 reservoirs located in a wilderness area in Mineral County that have been severely impacted by spruce bark beetle. The objective is to fall dead trees away from the spruce lakes to reduce maintenance in the future of those reservoirs. The project is designed to maintain wilderness character by simulating a natural fall down event rather than clean-cut stumps. The project is a great example of public-private partnerships on public lands. No additional needs have been identified, and staff recommends approval.
Any questions for Megan? No? Director Dutton.
Thank you, Megan. I move staff recommendation on item 25V.
Been moved by Director Dutton, seconded by Director Wattenberg, that we approve staff recommendation on item 25V. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, Megan.
Agenda item 25W is a request for $36,200 from the Rio Grande Basin account to assist Colorado Open Lands in the implementation of a conservation easement on the Anderson Lazy EA Ranch. The ranch is a 164.5 acre working ranch with significant senior water rights and part of an important agricultural corridor. The conservation easement will tie 1.4 CFS of Peñas Creek water rights to the property. This project will ensure that the existing hydrology remains intact, allowing return flows to reach downstream users and the river and to the river by tying senior water rights to the land. The completion of this project will prevent the subdivision of this historical agricultural property, limit development, and maintain key wildlife corridors. No additional needs have been identified, and staff recommends approval. I did see Judy Lopez come in with Colorado Open Lands. Would you like to address the board? if you have
Any-
questions. Otherwise, she's going to hang
Oh.
way back there.
You came all this way. Don't you want to say hello?
Judy.
If you just state your name and who you're with, that's fine.
Judy Lopez, Colorado Open Lands. I'm the Conservation Project Manager in the San Luis Valley. Thank you so much for your funding and support of Rio Grande Basin projects over the last 11 years through the roundtable process. It's been really imperative for us, as many basins as you sit and hear so many projects. So thank you. Glad to be here. Megan spoke eloquently about the project, and so if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them.
All right. Any questions for Judy? All right. Thank you very much. Director Dutton.
Thanks, Megan, and thanks, Judy, for making the trip. I would move the board approved staff recommendation of item 25W.
It's been moved by Director Dutton, second by Director Gallagher, that we approve staff recommendation on item 25W. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Continue.
25X. Agenda 25X is a request for $9,190 from the Rio Grande Basin account to assist Mineral County Fairgrounds Association to resume the use of Mineral Park Ranch ditch of 1.2 CFS, as well as isolate irrigation water from contacting contaminated sediments still in residence under a recently capped and reclaimed project area. Lower Willow Creek land area below Creed contains significant mining waste that has been mitigated. The need to construct 1,100-foot pipeline arose to isolate irrigation water from Willow Creek from contaminated soils. This irrigation water will be outletted 1 mile south into a 10-acre native grassland on Mineral County Fairgrounds property. The water will improve the density of native grasses, potential erosion will be abated, and the need for mechanical and chemical weed control will be greatly reduced. It is noted in your activity summary that the application does not meet the eligibility component of match requirements. That is, 25% of basin funds must be met by applicant match funds, either cash in kind or both. This issue came up at the Rio Grande Basin Roundtable in October. Based on discussion, without significant roundtable support, the Mineral County Fairgrounds Association would not be able to pursue this very small water project of $10,000. As such, the Rio Basin Roundtable recommends that the CWCB waive the 25% match requirement, and staff recommends approval.
Any questions for Megan? No. Director Dutton.
Thanks, Megan. I move staff recommendation for item 25X.
Been moved by Director Dutton, seconded by Director McLeod, that we approve staff recommendation of agenda item 25X. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
The last 6 requests are from the Southwest Basin Roundtable. The Southwest Basin Chair, Mike Preston, is in the audience today, and he has volunteered to stand in for the applicants. If there are questions, we both will try our best to answer them. Agenda item 25Y is a request for $22,545 from the Southwest Basin account to assist Mountain Studies Institute in the initiation of a stream management plan process for the Upper San Juan River Basin. Applying lessons learned in the San Miguel Stream Management Plan pilot program, this project will address the identified information gap by tackling the first critical step, a community engagement, development of a stakeholder group, and review of existing data and information with the outcome of a work plan moving forward. The staff recommendation in your original board packet was modified in an email you received, thanks to a catch by Celine, to state the correct project title on the water activity summary sheet. Aside from securing pending funds, no additional needs have been identified, and staff recommends approval. I will note this project previously received $45,090 from the Colorado Watershed Restoration Program Fund.
Any questions for Megan? All right. Director Hawkins.
Thank you, Chairman. First, I wanted to disclose then you can see this on the funding summary that my employer, the Nature Conservancy, has provided some cash match for this project. And unless there are any questions, I would move the corrected staff recommendation for agenda item 5Y.
Been moved by Director Hawkins, second by Director Wattenberg, that we approve staff recommendation on item 25Y. Is there any further discussion? Mike, did you want to say anything about this? Are you good? Okay. Okay. All right. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Megan?
Agenda item 25Z is a request for $30,000 from the Southwest Basin account and $30,000 from the statewide account for a total request of $60,000. This fund will help the town of Rico engage an engineering firm to provide a detailed analysis of Rico's water systems with the goal of increasing water efficiency, water quality, and productivity for Rico residents. The proposed water system analysis would help Rico continue to provide safe drinking water and would be the first step in an attempt to meet an expected municipal gap should the town of Rico enjoy moderate growth. The proposed project consists of an analysis and feasibility study to determine what it would take to reactivate the Silver Creek system. It would also include an evaluation and upgrade plan that would help resolve an average monthly water loss of 47% from the well system. The town is also exploring the possibility of combining the two systems to create a more reliable water source. No additional needs have been identified, and staff recommends approval.
All right, any questions for Megan? Director Hawkins.
Thank you, Chairman. And if there are no questions, I would move staff approval on agenda item 25Z.
It's been moved by Director Hawkins, second by Director Dutton, that we approve staff recommendation on agenda item 25Z. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Thank you. We're in
Right, we
double
made it
letters
through the
now.
alphabet once. Agenda item 25AA is a request for $50,000 from the Southwest Basin account and $170,000 from the statewide account for a total request of $220,000 to contribute toward the rehabilitation of water delivery infrastructure and restoration of shallow water wetland functionality at the San Bruno State Wildlife Area. This project is in partnership with the Bureau of Reclamation, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, the Southwest Wetlands Focus Area, and Ducks Unlimited. The San Bruno Wildlife Area is a federal land owned by the Bureau of Reclamation and managed under agreement by CPW. San Bruno is part of a wetland complex in Colorado that was enhanced to benefit wildlife during the construction of Navajo Dam on the San Juan River. Since its construction, the water infrastructure and ditches have fallen into disrepair, resulting in diminished environmental and recreational benefits. In 2012, CPW commissioned a management plan which identified several areas where infrastructure improvements could be made to restore wetland function and increased recreational opportunities. This proposal presents the key water infrastructure improvement activities necessary to restore 100 acres of the San Bruno wetlands to full functionality. No additional needs have been identified, and staff recommends approval. We do have Jason Rudabush in the audience, and he's available to answer questions. Would you like to address the board? Okay.
Thanks, Megan. Any questions for Megan or Jason? All right, Director Hawkins.
Thank you, Chairman. And if there are no questions, I would move staff recommendation on agenda item 25AA.
It's been moved by Director Hawkins, seconded by Director Gallagher, that we approve staff recommendation on agenda item 25AA. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Megan.
Agenda item 25BB is a request for $48,750 from the Southwest Basin account to help the town of Ignacio complete improvements to the irrigation utility distribution piping and storage pond. Distribution piping improvements will focus on improved system pressurization, and storage improvements will focus on pond expansion, lining, and inlet-outlet piping. Completion of this work will improve overall water delivery to customers and aid in providing future service when growth occurs in Ignacio. No additional needs have been identified, and staff recommends approval.
Questions for Megan? Director Hawkins.
Thank you, Chairman. If there are no questions, I would move staff approval on agenda item 25BB.
It's been moved by Director Hawkins, seconded by Director McLeod, that we approve staff recommendation on agenda item 25BB. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 25CC.
Great. Item 25CC is a request for $45,000 from the Southwest Basin account and $54,000 from the statewide account for a total request of $99,000 to contribute. Excuse me. To contribute to a multi-purpose project to provide preliminary design concepts and a feasibility study for repairs to the Florida Canal diversion structure. The diversion structure delivers pre-compact irrigation water rights to the Florida Canal headgate for irrigation of 6,900 acres on the Florida Mesa. The current diversion structure is a low-head dam that impedes upstream fish and aquatic organism passage. The WSRF funding will be used for phase 1 of the project, including engineering design services and a loan feasibility study for future funding of the project. It is of note that phase 2 of this project is also up for initial review under today's agenda item 27. That's $100,000 of water plant grant funds from the agricultural bucket that Brent Newman will be presenting, and $50,000 of water plant grant funds from the environmental and rec bucket that Linda Bassi will be presenting. No additional needs have been identified, and staff does recommend approval. Oh, hi. Please come announce your name. Sorry.
All right, thanks. Any questions for Megan first, and then if you'd state your name and who you're with? You have any questions for Hayes? All right, thanks for coming. Director Hawkins.
Thank you, Chairman. First, I would like to disclose, and you can see this on the funding summary, that my employer, the Nature Conservancy, has provided cash match for this project. Second, I wanted to be on record to commend the Florida Consolidated Ditch Company for forming such a diverse stakeholder group for this multi-purpose project. I was very excited to see it when the Ditch Company began working on it. And unless there are any questions, I would move staff approval on agenda item 25CC.
All right, it's been moved by Director Hawkins, second by Director Goebel, that we approve staff recommendation on agenda item 25CC. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And last but not least, we're looking forward to that prize, whatever you mentioned.
You are just going to feel so rewarded. I will say that. Agenda item 25DD is a request for $43,000 from the Southwest Basin account to help the Animas Air Park. Whoops. Sorry, guys. From the Animas Air Park Property Owners Association, constructed a municipal water line to serve commercial, industrial, and residential properties along North Skyline Drive. Thank you very much, Andrew. The design and construction of the distribution system was undertaken by the association in cooperation with the La Plata County City. Sorry, I've been talking for a while. With I really made it so far. Okay. I'm just going to put it down. In cooperation with the La Plata County and City of Durango, as well as the property owners of the La Posta Road area. The project phase includes 1,300 feet of pipe, and the size of line needed to serve the properties along Skyland Drive is 8 inches. The city of Durango will pay for upsizing the line to 12 inches to have future capacity in the Air Park distribution system for transmission of their Animas La Plata water from a future treatment plant at Basin Creek. The area served by this phase 2 includes 2 homes that currently depend on hauled water and 20 acres of commercial and industrial raw land adjacent to the runway at Animas Air Park. No additional needs have been identified, and staff recommends approval.
Right. Any questions for Megan? Director Hawkins.
Thank you, Chairman. If there are no questions, I would move approval of agenda item 25DD.
It's been moved by Director Hawkins, second by Director Goebel, that we approve staff recommendation on agenda item 25DD. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Megan.
Yeah. So sorry to throw things. So my question is, that was a lot of WSRF items. Do you feel like you just kind of blacked out and just time passed? You don't really know if it's been 20 minutes, if it's been 20 days or 20 years. You're just here and you're not sure if it's lunchtime or dinner time. You're quite confused. And I ask you what it would feel like if you actually woke up next to someone who is 20 years older than you, but you were still there in the same room, and you realize that this person is, you're not really sure if they're you or you're them, and which one is the future and which one is the past. and this, I feel an obligation to share this photo with the board because it was gifted to me by, I don't think he's here yet, which is so sad. It was gifted to me by Kevin Reedy. And there's something about this picture, which I think is a little more clear than up here for everyone. There's something about it that when you look at it and you see these two people, you realize how similar you just like want to look closer and closer and closer. And you realize that you're not really sure what time it is at all. That's all.
All right.
That's all I have for you.
Good finish, Megan. Thank you.
I do want to say, after we saw that picture in the office, it was amazing, first of all. But I said, Kevin, did you go talk to that gentleman? And he said, I was afraid to because I thought it would disrupt the universe. Like I was talking to my future self. So
back when.
All right. Thank you, staff, for getting us through that. And it is time to break for lunch. And I believe Director George has to step out for the rest of the meeting. So I just want to make that note as well. So thanks for your time here. And we'll reconvene at about 1:15 because we have people that are coming to meet with us this afternoon. So about 1:15, so we get a little longer lunch. We'll come back in session. So we'll break for lunch now. Thank you all very much.